Holy Land, Mariajoy. A lounge in Pengu City. Satan picked up a cup of black tea, took a sip, and quietly listened to the report of an official from the P Department. Master 5 Elders. According to the information from Sabodi Archipelago, it is suspected that a ship flying the Straw Hat pirate flag is landing on Sabodi Archipelago. Puff. A sip of black tea was sprayed out. Sa Tansheng was stunned and said, "What did you say? This is impossible." According to the information 2 days ago, the Straw Hat Luffy was heading to the city of the Queen of Spring, but 2 days later he appeared in the waters near the Sabodi Archipelago? What do you mean by the information 2 days ago? His face suddenly turned cold. That's the report from the chief of CP9, Spandam. The intelligence officer said bravely, "Of the two, one must be false. One is the information sent by CP9, and the other is the marine stationed in Sabodi Archipelago." Satan was very angry. Straw Hat Luffy must not be allowed to enter the New World. Once he is allowed to enter that sea area, it will be difficult to touch him again. Regardless of whether the information from Sabodi's side is true or not, Satan must take it seriously. Notify Marine 3 Admiral immediately, and kill Monkey D. Luffy at all costs. Yes. At the same time that Akainu received the order. Grand Line, New World, Red Harbor. There are only 2 ports in the world, located on both sides of the Holy Land Mariajoy. Unlike pirates, Marine wants to travel between the New World and the Paradise Sea. All he needs to do is pass through the Red Harbor, instead of going 10,000 meters into the deep sea and crossing the big hole in the deep sea. At this point, face Red Harbor in the New World. Kizaru is preparing to take a warship to a research base owned by the government. The pacifist's transformation is drawing to a close and his strength is needed. A colonel hurried up and stopped him. Straw Hat Luffy in the Sabodi Archipelago? Knowing the 5 Elders' order, Kizaru couldn't help twisting his mouth, and muttered in his heart, "It's so strange. Why is 5 Elders so urgent? Obliterate at all costs, meaning, even if the Sabodi Archipelago is destroyed, people must be left behind." The old man knows. He immediately cancelled the trip, turned into a beam of golden light, and rushed to the sky in the blink of an eye. Grand Line, the Sea of Paradise. Aokiji was riding a bicycle on the sea when he suddenly received a call from the headquarters. After listening to it, people were dumbfounded. It's a bit strange no matter how you think about it. Why? Even if Straw Hat Luffy destroyed the main fortress with a single punch, it didn't have to go to this level. At all costs. Not even Whitebeard got that treatment. Scratching his head in doubt, Aokiji looked back at the endless sea. Too far to go to Sabodi Archipelago from here, at least a day. His current task is to track down the escaped prisoners. In short, go after Blackbeard. Forget it, just pretend you didn't hear it. Ignoring the order, Aokiji continued riding on the sea. The waters near the Sabodi Archipelago. The Ark proverb, on deck. The newcomer, Foxy, was the watchman. At this time, he put down his binoculars and shouted to the vice captain Bartolomeo. "You can already see the island, deputy captain of the minibus." "Oh, good work. Also, the minibus is superfluous." Bartolomeo immediately went to the side of the boat and shouted to the knee below. "Lord Luffy, we are almost at Sabodi Archipelago." The next moment, a thunder flashed. Nami appeared on the boat. "Give me the telescope." Taking the telescope from Foxy, Nami confirmed it. "Well, you can indeed see the island." Immediately, she went to the control room of the Ark proverb, lowered the ship, and finally floated on the sea like a normal sailing ship. At the same time, on the deck of the Sunny, Luffy immediately issued a command wave. Laboon. A huge black shadow appeared on the sea ahead, and Laboon emerged from the water, opening its huge mouth towards the fleet. The 5 ships immediately put away their sails, and under the impetus of the seawater, they sailed slowly towards the huge mouth of the abyss. "I'm going to the island. Who of you wants to go? There may be an ambush." Luffy asked the crowd. The first one to stand up was the captain of the 4th Division. Luo stood on the deck of the Polar Diving and shouted, "My boat can dive. Let's go ashore on this boat, and it will be convenient to meet later." Luffy made an okay gesture. "I'll go for a walk too." "On the Mary," Zoro said with a sigh, and finally Moria. "Hey he, Pluton Rayleigh. I also want to meet." let me know. You are a felon targeted by the government. You are not afraid of death? Luffy joked. You are not afraid. What am I afraid of? Moria jumped from her own boat to the ruined boat. With a bang, the submarine sank by 1 meter. In this regard, Luffy is even more indifferent. He turned to Vivi and said, "Go down and wait for us, it probably won't take much time. Be careful with everything, Luffy." Subsequently, the soldiers were divided into 2 groups. Luffy, Zoro, Moria, Luo, and Luo's men took the polar diving to Sabodi Archipelago. The rest went straight into Laboon's stomach and disappeared over the sea. Soon after, Sabodi Archipelago, Area 11. After docking on the shore, the 4 of them disembarked one after another. Babo the white bear stayed where he was. "Captain, be careful, don't be caught by marine." "Don't worry too much, Beppo, I'll trouble you to guard the boat." "Sorry." Beppo apologized on the spot. Sabodi Archipelago is made up of many giant Algiers trees, the ground is the roots, and bubbles will emerge from the ground. The reason why it is called an archipelago is because each tree root is a small island, and each small island is connected by a wooden bridge. Thus, 79 regions are divided. "The Straw Hats are in charge, we'd better move faster," Luo said softly. "The ruler here is actually the Celestial Dragons, and this place is equivalent to the playground and back garden of the Celestial Dragons. Does not belong to any country, but in fact belongs to Celestial Dragons. Celestial Dragons, sooner or later they will be killed." Luffy grinned. "Between him and the Celestial Dragons, that is a clear-cut enemy our relationship, either you die or I live." Moria, Luo. Zoro laughed and said, "Luffy, if we meet, can I cut it? Hacking is the best." Chatting along the way, the 4 of them came from Area 11 to Area 13. Exuding knowledge, Luffy quickly found a small bar. The small bar is located on a high ground with long steps in front of the door. Everyone went up the stairs, and when they came to the flat ground in front of the bar, they happened to see a woman cleaning up a group of pirates. The woman was wearing a spider pattern top, tall and thin, with short black hair, and a lady's cigarette dangling from her mouth. I caught a glimpse of Luffy and the others from the corner of my eyes, and suddenly showed a surprised expression. "Oh, this is really a rare visitor. Isn't this the son-in-law of our daughter island, the former 7 warlords of the sea, the little monkey with a bounty of 3.5 billion Baileys?" A.M. The corner of Zoro's mouth twitched. "Luffy. Why are you an acquaintance again? How many relatives do you have? What is the son-in-law of daughter's island?" The woman chuckled and said, "Little Hancock, the emperor of our daughter country, is pregnant with little monkey's child. Isn't that a son-in-law, and what is it? You are the swordsman of the Straw Hats, Roronoa Zoro. Why did that rumor spread to Sabodi Archipelago?" Luffy just couldn't complain. Women's 8 trigrams heart? This is outrageous. Moreover, the empress was not pregnant at all. If no baby is born after 10 months, will these women kill him? Although he worked hard all afternoon after that, the probability of winning in one shot is about the same as buying a lottery ticket. So, quickly change the subject. "Miss Shaki, I'm here for welfare." "Really?" Shaki raised his eyebrows unexpectedly. Unexpectedly Luffy knew her name. "Really, I'm not here. I haven't seen him for almost a month. Come in for a drink first. I want to hear the story of you and little Hancock." Saying so, she threw the pirate in her hand to the ground. "Hurry up, get out of here, and make trouble next time. I won't let you off so easily." Everyone followed her into the tavern. The name of the tavern is Sha Xian's ripped-off bar. Because Moria was too tall, she could only sit on the sidelines, while the other 3 went to the bar. Shaki poured everyone a glass of wine. After returning to the bar, he said with a smile, "Captain of the Heart Pirates, super rookie, Trafalgar Law with a bounty of 200 million. Also, the original 7 warlords of the sea, Gecko Moria. You 4-person combination is really amazing." Luo asked in surprise, "Do you know me? Don't look at me like this, I'm very well informed." "Then, what's the matter with you? Come to Rayleigh." Shaki looked at Luffy with a puzzled look. "I want to ask him a little bit." Luffy introduced to everyone. Shaki is the emperor of the daughter country of the previous generation, and the former captain of the 9 snake pirates. All 3 were a little surprised. Shaki sighed. Little monkey, you know very well. At the beginning, your grandfather chased me all over the world. I didn't expect that there would be a day when I would become an in-law. Then, when will I be able to drink with you and little Hancock? I must have a good drink with your grandpa. Can't make it through, right? And getting married, how is it possible? Even if they really want to get married, they will suppress Nami and Vivi together. Duan Shui, he is professional. However, that has to be after he completes the grand line. Miss Shaki, let's talk about Hancock and I next time. Once the news of my coming to this island spreads, Marine Admiral will come to trouble me. That's right, you are now a 3.5 billion big pirate. Shaki took a sip of the lady's cigarette, and slowly exhaled the smoke ring. If Rayleigh doesn't spend all his money on drinks, he won't come back. If you want to find him, you can go to the coding dock. Hearing this, Luffy once again released the thunderous energy of knowledge. Sensing his movement, Shaki laughed. Knowledge is not a panacea. People like Rayleigh have more or less a way to hide their aura, otherwise he would have been discovered by Marine. Hiding the aura, Luffy will also be on point. A skill that comes naturally as Haki progresses. But it's not knowledge kill. Knowledge kill is to completely shield the enemy's knowledge color, so that the knowledge color of others is completely invalid. Even if it is to predict the future, it will not be effective in the face of knowledge killing. By the way, there is a big auction in Area 1 today. Once a month, maybe he will be there, you can go and see, Shaki reminded. It seems like this is the only way to go. Then I'll go and have a look, Miss Shaki. Luffy nodded, drank the wine in the glass, turned to the others and said, you guys stay here, or come with me. All three choose to be together. Shaki sent people outside the door, and said with concern, be careful, this island is full of Marine's eyeliner. Got it. Say hello to Hancock for me. After waving their hands, Luffy and the others left. Area 1. As the illegal area of the island, here is the largest population auction on the island. No matter what race, it is legal to auction in Sabodi Archipelago. Even if it is a princess of a country, as long as it is not a member of the world government, it is legal to be sold here. Not to mention other non-pure human races. The most popular, of course, is the mermaid. For female mermaids under the age of 30, the starting price is 70 million Baileys. The transaction price can sometimes be as high as sky high, even hundreds of millions are possible. You know, ordinary devil fruit, don't eat in groups. When Luffy and others came to the auction, the main entrance was closed, and the auction had already started. Seeing this, Luo calmly said, I'll come. As he said that, with his palm facing down, a transparent spherical space immediately enveloped the four of them. Room. At the next moment, all four of them disappeared. At the same time, at the auction site with a warm atmosphere, at the end of the auction booth, the transparent sphere space expanded to this point, and then four people appeared in an instant. Unpleasant atmosphere. Zoro frowned. The auction seats were almost full, rich people dressed in gorgeous clothes, and the loud shouting made the space here filled with an uncomfortable sense of turbidity. He who owns the straw hat, look at the front row, Luo whispered. Everyone followed his gaze and cast their gazes. In the front row of the auction booth, there are three people with VIP seats, wearing white spacesuit-like clothing and a transparent bubble hood, disdain to breathe the same air as ordinary people. Celestial dragons. Moria squinted her eyes and quickly glanced at Luffy, but saw his expression of interest. Is it important to find someone first? The man has been found. At such a close distance, my knowledge is not a display. Even Rayleigh can't hide it. He is waiting to be auctioned in the back. Having said that, Luffy has already walked towards the three celestial dragons. Seeming to have noticed his movements, the auctioneer on the stage froze for a moment. Wait a minute, guest, please go back to your seat, the next auction item. Halfway through the speech, as Luffy approached and was gradually exposed to the light, the auctioneer's face became stiff, and then his pupils dilated, and his whole body trembled. Straw Hat Luffy. As soon as these words came out, the fanatical atmosphere at the scene froze, and suddenly became extremely quiet. Only the sound of Luffy's footsteps and leather shoes trampling on the floor remained. Da. What? Straw Hat Luffy. That pirate who messed around in Summit War. Ah. It's me. Run. Screams sounded, and in the next moment, countless people left their seats and scattered frantically in a direction away from Luffy. Ha! It's really messy. Luo raised his forehead in admiration. Does this guy know the reward on his head and the malice that the world government has towards him? What's going on? Straw Hat Luffy. Pirates. The three celestial dragons frowned belatedly, and the one on the right looked back at Luffy. However, the moment he turned his head, a fist has fallen. Armed color entanglement, due to destruction. Boom. A punch hit him in the face. The whole face of this celestial dragons was sunken, and the eyeballs exploded on the spot. The penetrating armament Haki destroys his brain in an instant and smashes his skull into shards. With a whoosh, the celestial dragons flew out of the seat without even screaming, and flew directly onto the stage, crashing into the wall. What are you doing? The other two celestial dragons were shocked and angry. Do you know who we are? Damn bastards. Celestial dragons. Luffy curled his lips, and immediately grabbed one of them, and a passerby raised it. You guys are out of luck. Click. Another one died. It's like crushing a chick. Luffy killed two celestial dragons in the blink of an eye, and even Moria and Luo, who were accompanying them, couldn't help but gasp. The auctioneer on the stage was even more frightened. He trembled, let out a strange cry, dropped the microphone in his hand, and ran away quickly. He ran backstage. Behind them are caged slaves waiting to be auctioned off. When everyone is squeezing the front door to escape, it is obviously safer and faster to leave through the back door here. Unbelievable, insane. How dare you kill celestial dragons? The auctioneer was so shocked that he didn't dare to guarantee it for a second. However, as soon as he ran into the backstage, he saw an old man walking towards him with a small wine jug and a smile on his face. The words of the slaves have already been released by me. Saying so, the old man's eyes were fixed, and in an instant, a wave of conquerors shocked the auctioneer's mind. With a plop, the auctioneer fell cleanly to the ground. The old man smiled slightly, bent down to take out a wallet from the auctioneer, and accepted it with a blunt smile. Meanwhile, the other side. Luffy threw the strangled celestial dragons aside, turned his gaze to the last celestial dragons. Although the three celestial dragons are 2 men and 1 woman, they are not the family of Charles Rose in the original story. The last person is not very old, and looks like he is only 2 or 3 years old. Father. Mother. He was trembling all over, and tears were rolling on his face full of fear. While running away, he shouted in a sharp voice, "Come on, come on." Moria. Luffy said calmly. Hearing this, Moria frowned, and acted immediately. Those old bastards of the 5 elders want to kill me so much, I can't swallow this breath if I don't pay back to them. If you can't get 5 elders for a while, it's the same if you kill a celestial dragons. Shadow Horngun. The black shadow that spread out from under his feet caught up with the little celestial dragons in an instant. The black shadow floated up from the floor, like piercing candied haws, and with a puff, it pierced the fleeing little celestial dragons into the air. Wow! The little celestial dragons opened their mouths and spit out a large amount of blood. Because they were wearing bubble hoods, the blood all settled in the bubbles and did not land on the ground. The smell of blood and pain stimulated his brain. Raising his hands to grab the black shadow running through his body, the little celestial dragons let out a slight cry of pain. But in just a second or two, consciousness was completely plunged into darkness. Died. Seeing this scene, Trafalgar Law, a doctor, felt a little bit unbearable. After all, he was still a child of 12 or 13 years old. But the thought of the celestial dragons melted away that lingering distaste. Luffy shook his head and said, "It's a pity that there are only 3 of them. In the future, I will go to the Holy Land to build a Beijing for the celestial dragons and broadcast it live to the world. Many people will be happy." Celestial dragons are not many in number. Excluding Vivi, there are 19 families at full count. Some people may think that with such a small number of people, the persecution to the world is not great, far inferior to the pirates who plunder all over the world. This way of thinking about the problem is too superficial. Celestial dragons' oppression of the whole world is systematic and progressive. Of course, the most important thing is that he and celestial dragons are incompatible. Ha ha ha, it's you who made such a big fight when you came here. Monkey D. Luffy. There was a chuckle from the stage, and then everyone saw an old man wearing glasses and a scar on his right eye, walking out slowly from behind the red cloth. Pluton, Silver Rayleigh. Luo's eyes narrowed slightly. The government has not revoked Rayleigh's reward order, although compared with the blonde hair in the photo, the old man in front of him has gray hair. But there was almost no difference in appearance, and he recognized it at a glance. Mr. Rayleigh, meeting you for the first time, Luffy greeted. Rayleigh's eyes fell on the straw hat on Luffy's head, and there was no coldness in his eyes. Like Roger, he is a guy who is good at messing around. Ha 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 ha, I have been waiting for you here for a long time. Wait for me. Luffy said unexpectedly. 10 years ago, when Shanks lost his arm at East Blue, I knew that one day, sooner or later, you would end up here. Rayleigh smiled slightly, glanced at the 3 dead celestial dragons. Let's go. Talk in another place, Marine Admiral will come after a while. In this regard, everyone has no opinion. Walking out of the empty main entrance of the auction, the 5 people headed towards Area 13. When Marine arrived at the scene belatedly, there were only 3 uncooled corpses of celestial dragons in the auction hall. Colonel Marine, who led the team, looked terrified and sweated profusely. Quick. Medical class, save people. What a vicious pirate. Straw Hat Luffy dares to hurt the nobles of the world. He didn't even dare to use the word killing. Once dead, he is finished. As the supreme officer stationed here, he has an unshakable responsibility. Once the celestial dragons die, he dies too. Contact the headquarters. Hastily took out the phone bug, and the colonel hurriedly dialed the number of the headquarters. Area 13, Shaki's Rip-Off Bar. This place is so out of the way that few customers would visit it at all. When Luffy and others came back, Shaki was sitting leisurely reading a newspaper. Came back. She chuckled, got up and walked behind the bar, and prepared some drinks for everyone. Luffy and Rayleigh took a seat at the bar. The wine here is still delicious, Shaki. Rayleigh picked up the glass and swirled the pale yellow wine in it. There's no need for compliments, you've been drinking for more than 10 years. Shaki sighed. Men are really creatures that can't be tied, and they ran away if they didn't pay attention. Little monkey, you can't learn from him. Luffy. Ha ha ha, put the wine aside first. Luffy, you came to me on purpose, you must have something to ask, right? I want to ask you something. Where is Rahudal, the final island? There is no detour, insinuation, everyone is a pirate, just ask. The new world after this. Ha ha ha, do you really want to know? What a mischievous old man. Luffy rolled his eyes and said with a smile, it's okay if there's anything I can't say, I'm just stopping by to see, and I don't regret if I don't get an answer. There's nothing you can't say, it's just pointless to say it. What's the meaning? Luffy didn't understand. Rahudal is a sky island, you must find 4 pieces of red road sign history text, and confirm the coordinates of the 4 islands before you can really find it. Rayleigh was not secretive at all, and told the answer very concisely. Sky Island? Both Luo and Moria were surprised. If the final island was an island on the sea, with the power of the world government, we could have found it a long time ago. Rayleigh smiled slightly. Luo pondered for a moment, and said, it makes sense. Even in the most dangerous sea area, a carpet search regardless of sacrifice will find it sooner or later. What is sacrifice to the world government? There are as many slaves as you want. Sky Island has no magnetism, right? So, there is no permanent pointer pointing to it, Luffy said unexpectedly. In a certain theatrical version, there once appeared a permanent Yao Ren pointing to Rapindel. If it's really Sky Island, is the pointer fake? Or is Lahudal a magnetic Sky Island? For this question, Rayleigh did not answer, but asked with a smile. That island will move, so I can't tell you exactly where it is. Luffy thought for a while, it didn't seem strange that Sky Island would move. In the original story, Nami was photographed flying to the small Sky Island. After practicing for 2 years, the small Sky Island will move. At this time, Zoro couldn't help saying, it's Sky Island again, it can move again, and you have to understand ancient characters. No wonder only one piece can find it for 800 years. The person who hid the big secret treasure at the beginning is really Heart Calendar. Indeed, in order not to be found by the enemy, a very complicated method has been devised. Luffy nodded approvingly. The enemy, of course, is to stare at I am. As for who did it, he suspected it was Queen Lily. After all, she was the one who disseminated the historical text. I've already told you how to get there. Luffy, what will you do? Rayleigh shook his glass, his tone unhurried. I can also tell you the exact coordinates recorded in the text of the 4 road sign calendars. I want to know? It's not necessary. The archaeologist on my ship is very interested in history, and sooner or later she will take her to find those stones. Luffy shook his head, but when it came to the coordinates, he had new doubts. Since it can move, how can the 4 coordinates confirm its position? You'll find out when you find all 4 stones. Rayleigh laughed and said, we went too early. That big secret treasure exists just to wait for someone. Luffy, you ask me a lot of questions. I have a question for you too. Excuse me. Are you Joey boy? I'm not even Luffy. What else can I be, Joey? Luffy thought to himself. Just about to speak, suddenly, he frowned. The color of knowledge that predicts the future, sees the future in a few seconds. A golden light fell, and the entire bar was destroyed in the explosion. Kizaru. Luffy stood up immediately. The enemy is coming, ready to withdraw. Marine Admiral. So fast. Several people were shocked. Then, I saw that Luffy had gone out. At the same time. In the sky outside the bar, a beam of golden light came in an instant. Kizaru appeared in midair. Here. Without hesitation, he got the order to do whatever it takes. No civilians were considered either. Immediately, he stretched out his right index finger, and the golden light condensed on the fingertips turned into a beam of laser light, and immediately hit the bar. At this moment, Luffy appeared on the roof of the bar. It's coming soon. While speaking, he stretched out his hand to block the laser light. Armament Haki forms an invisible shield in the palm of his hand. With a snap and a pinch, Kizaru's laser was crushed abruptly. Scary, Straw Hat Luffy. Kizaru twisted his mouth, and his figure landed from midair, landing on the flat ground in front of the bar. Before at the Summit War, you had enough nonsense, and now you have killed 3 celestial dragons. Even the old man has to stop you here. Don't act like you can stop me. Luffy smiled disdainfully, fixed his gaze, and immediately entered Nika's form. The next moment, the roof under his feet was rubberized, and the elasticity brought by the dent brought him close to Kizaru in an instant. Wrapping Conqueror's fist, he punched Kizaru's face mercilessly. Kizaru's pupils dilated, and at the same time his body began to emit golden light. So fast. He only had time to spit out 2 words, and then, the person turned into photons and dissipated, and Luffy's punch fell through the air. In a flash of golden light, Kizaru appeared behind him, sweeping his raised right leg towards Luffy's head. Have you ever been kicked by the speed of light? Predict future. Luffy doesn't dodge or dodge. At the same time as Kizaru kicked, a figure rushed out of the bar. Rayleigh approached like lightning, raised his sword. Kizaru's body turned into a stream of light again, and ran to the roof of the bar in a blink of an eye. He looked surprised. Pluton Rayleigh. After Roger disbanded the pirate group, the government has been trying to find you, so you are hiding in this place? It's dark under the lights. Who would have guessed that the vice captain of One Piece would be under Marine's nose? Luffy, you go first, I'll stop him for you. Rayleigh pointed at Kizaru and smiled. Sorry, Kizaru, I can't let you turn off the lights here. As he spoke, he swiped his sword across and flew towards Kizaru at the same time. Then trouble you, come with us. Luffy laughed, and immediately jumped off the high ground with the 3 of Zoro. Seeing this, Kizaru clashed his fists and palms, and drew a lightsaber from his right hand. Amazon Cloud Sword. The 2 weapons slashed together, making a bang. Kizaru said lazily and casually, it's not just the old man, it's pointless for you to stop me, Pluton Rayleigh. Yeah. But it's good, if I catch you, the old man will be able to do business. Kizaru doesn't care about catching Luffy or not, as long as he can do business. The other side. The 4 of Luffy walked towards the landing point. When you come to the wooden bridge connecting Area 13 and Area 12, 3 pacifists have appeared on the opposite side of the bridge. In front of the humanoid weapon, there was a little fat man with a huge axe on his shoulders. The old man is really unreliable. Didn't even the Straw Hat Luffy stop him? Do you want me to stop this kind of big pirate alone? Zon Taowen's face turned dark, and he immediately issued an order. Stop them, PX. The three pacifists immediately launched an attack, and the doctor stretched out his right palm. There are no meatballs in their palms, but they are emitting laser light. I come. Zoro grinned, holding the handle of the knife on either side of his waist with both hands. Armed color hyphenation point entangled. 2 swords style EI. Shave. The sword light flashed by, and the 2 arms of the pacifist in the middle were cut off in an instant. Rashomon. With a bang, the explosion field filled the sky with flames. Hey he he he. Just a few robots, you can get Bartholomew Kuma over. Moria waved her hands, and immediately, the shadows behind her turned into black bats flying all over the sky. Shadowbox. The black bats quickly gathered under the feet of a pacifist, forming a huge pitch-black box in an instant. Next moment, boom. The emitted laser failed to break through the black box, and the explosion was suppressed inside the box. Room. Luo stretched out his hand to create a hemispherical transparent space, drew out the demon sword in his hand, and slashed across the air with a sword. Slaughterhouse. The last piece organizer was cut off in half. The laser that was originally aimed at Luffy and the others also hit the river with a swish because of the deviation of the upper body. In an instant, the rain soared into the sky, and then fell back down. There's no need to pester him, let's go. Luffy didn't bother to pay attention, just about to take a step, suddenly his eyes flashed. The knowledgeable color who predicted the future felt a powerful breath approaching from the sky. Great eruption. The right fist swung by Akainu turned into a giant lava fist that fell from the sky. Another one. Luffy punches it. White firecrackers. Wrapping around the armed color and punching a fist, flames appeared on the fist. Boom. In an instant, the fist of magma was pierced through, turning into a rain of fire and falling in all directions. Are you here to die? Akainu. Luffy smiled faintly. Bang. Akainu landed in front of Zon Taomaru, facing the 4 of Luffy. He has no clothes on his upper body, but a cloak of justice is draped over his shoulders. There is a knife left by Whitebeard on the chest, which is also bandaged at this time. Straw Hat Luffy, you seem to enjoy challenging the world's rules. Akainu's eyes were cold. On the way here, I heard that 3 celestial dragons were killed. Celestial dragons is your father. Luffy couldn't help laughing and said, you 3 go first, I'll come later. Careful. Luo solemnly reminded the 3 of them to leave immediately. Seeing this, Zon Taomaru attacked Zoro with a huge axe in hand. He didn't think he could beat these 3, but sometimes he had to do it. Ding. Zoro drew his knife to block the axe, and said in a deep voice, go first, I'll stop him. Pirate Hunter, Roronoa Zoro, the government has underestimated you, the mere 19 million bounty is not worthy of your strength. Zon Taowen felt the hockey on the opponent's blade, and his face was solemn. If you can kill a pacifist with 1 move, the bounty is at least over 100 million. Then remember to give me a higher bounty next time, at least hundreds of millions. The bicep of Zoro's right arm suddenly swelled up in a circle, and the knife bounced off the opponent. The next moment, the bicep of the other hand also swelled up. He put on a posture like a gorilla roaring, and locked on the enemy with knowledge and knowledge. 1 Gang Li Luo. 2 Gang Li Luo. 2 swords style 72 troubled phoenixes. The blade cut out, and 2 beams of silvery sword energy flew towards Zon Taowen in a cross shape. What a powerful slash. Not an ordinary swordsman. Zon Taowen's heart was shocked. The axe had already been released by the opponent's strange force. At this time it flew upside down in midair, and Ridong slapped it out facing the slash. Walk alone. Armed colored hockey evolves substantial attack power, which is much stronger than ordinary winding and hardening. Boom. The slash was blocked and they fell into a stalemate. At the same time, Akainu doesn't care about other people's escape, only Luffy is in his eyes. For Luffy's ridicule of celestial dragons as your father, he just snorted coldly. HMPH, celestial dragons don't matter, unimportant. The important thing is to implement their own absolute justice. The old man will annihilate you here. As soon as the voice fell, he had already launched an attack. For Admiral, there is no need to shave such 6 styles at all, and the speed itself is already very fast. Blinking and getting closer, he came in front of Luffy, his right fist turned into billowing magma, and smashed down on the head. Luffy's face is normal, the power of predicting the future allows him to see through Zhigu's attack. But do not dodge or avoid the same punch. Boom. When the 2 punches did not touch, the impact occurred. Black and red lightning overflowed, and Akainu's fist was hard to get close. The next moment, his fist swelled suddenly, and the magma opened like a big net, like a bloody mouth, trying to swallow Luffy. Seeing this, Luffy immediately retreated a certain distance. Akainu missed the shot and sneered. It's just an awakened Zone who has mastered a bit of Conqueror's entanglement. Don't worry. I will arrest your subordinates one by one after I finish you. Zone? Ha 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 ha. Luffy couldn't help laughing. 5 elders ask you to come, right? A fool who doesn't know anything, but a hound led by the government, is also worthy of the title. Forget it, it doesn't hurt to let you see it a little bit. Saying so, raised his right fist. This familiar move caused Akainu to change color slightly. Immediately, Luffy punched out. Boom. Atmospheric cracks and massive earthquakes. The small island where Area 12 is located is shaking violently at this moment. The soap bubbles that floated up from the grass shattered at this moment. Impossible. Akainu was shocked, and his pupils burst into disbelief. Whitebeard's shock fruit. The fact that was too horrifying was in front of him. Jhin couldn't turn around for a while. The ground under his feet cracked, and for a moment, the whole person slid towards the abyss. He quickly grabbed the edge of the crack, and when he looked up, the silver-white figure had already appeared in the air. Luffy swung one arm, and his fist expanded rapidly, turning into a giant's fist in an instant. Armed color winding. Conqueror's twine. The power of vibration. A blow full of buffs, a punch that fell from the sky. Fall into the deep sea. By Akainu. Akainu immediately raised his own haki to the limit state, and it was too late to dodge, so he could only resist hard. Looking at the gradually enlarged black fist in the field of vision, Akainu's expression was extremely ugly. Dark Hound. The fist punched by the other hand only blocked that black giant hand for a split second. Next moment. Boom. Before the fist landed on the body, Conqueror's haki stepped over. Immediately afterwards, it was the power of vibration. With a wow, Akainu spat out blood suddenly, and his whole body was knocked down by this blow, falling into the deep sea. Straw Hat. There was an angry growl. Then, the whole person fell into the sea, causing a huge wave. 10 meters, 100 meters, 1,000 meters. Sakazuki Admiral. Not far away, Zon Taowen's face was dull. Admiral was defeated and retreated. Not only that, the Straw Hat actually has the power of 2 kinds of fruits. Ha ha ha. Let's go, Zoro. If you don't leave, I don't know who else will come. In midair, Luffy stepped on the void, stepped on the white flame, and instantly came to Zoro's side, lifted his collar with one hand, and disappeared from Zon's vision in the blink of an eye. So strong. How can I stop this kind of guy? Zon Taomaru trembled all over. It's impossible for an admiral to catch him. By the time Trafalgar Law and Gecko Moria returned to their stops in the 11th area, Luffy and Zoro had already arrived one step ahead. Waiting for you for a while. Aren't you with Akainu? Luo said dumbfounded. I was thrown into the deep sea, maybe drowned. Luffy waved his hand. Get on the boat, let's go. I really don't feel nervous. Did you come back from a walk? You are the one who is not nervous. The 2 quarrel in their hearts. Who wants to kill several celestial dragons? Without talking nonsense, the 4 of them quickly boarded the boat, and the polar diving slowly disappeared on the sea. The other side. Rayleigh and Kizaru were also fighting. The cantina has been destroyed in the aftermath of the fighting. Little Monkey has left. Not far away, Shaki withdrew his knowledge and shouted, "It's time to leave, Rayleigh." It was said that Rayleigh was already thinking of quitting, but Kizaru obviously didn't want him to run away, so he attacked more violently. It's tough, Kizaru. Rayleigh panted lightly, trying to leave, but it seemed like he couldn't get away for a while. Don't take it too far, Pluton Rayleigh, you stopped an admiral. Kizaru had plenty of room to overwhelm Rayleigh with ease. The lightsaber collided with the blade, making a dull sound. Rayleigh laughed. Don't pretend, I don't have time to mess around with you. While retreating, he slashed through the air with a knife. Armored-colored wraps. The black crescent-shaped slash flew towards Kizaru. Kizaru swung his lightsaber and blocked it easily. Taking advantage of this moment, Rayleigh came to Shaki's side, grabbed her and jumped off the high ground together. Run away by you, the face of the butcher. Just as Kizaru was about to chase, the phone bug on his wrist rang. He stopped and pressed the answer button slowly. Grandpa, the Straw Hat Luffy has escaped. Zanji's urgent voice came. Yeah. Kizaru blinked, it seemed the mission had failed. Not only that, that guy has the second fruit ability as Whitebeard's Thunder Fruit Sakazuki Admiral was thrown into the deep sea by him. What? Kizaru's face changed for the first time, and his expression seemed a little dull. Under the surface of the sea, the polar divers. Inside the cabin. Because of Moria's huge size, it was very crowded here. Zoro gets squeezed against the door. Why can't you just get smaller? He. I'm so sorry for being so strong, Roronoa. Not only was Moria not angry, but she was very proud. Beppo couldn't bear the heat, and was squeezed on the floor by everyone sweating profusely. Be patient, find Laboon first, Luo said helplessly. At 3 o'clock, the distance is about 3 kilometers. Luffy's knowledgeable color captures Laboon's breath, and at the same time sends out waves. Come pick us up, Laboon. Soon, a huge whale came swimming in the deep sea. It opened its mouth slightly and swallowed the submarine in one gulp. Down Laboon's esophagus, the submarine ended up on the tram. The hatch opens. Zoro was the first to be squeezed out. Later, Chong Lia was kicked out by Luo. A group of people walked out one after another. Luffy came out last, and when he was about to step on it, he found a white bear lying on the ground hot with its tongue out. Ha ha ha. Thank you for your hard work. Luffy grabbed Beppo and walked outside together. It's amazing, is there something like this in Laboon's stomach? And the sky? One of Luo's subordinates, Pei Jin, said in amazement. What caught everyone's eyes was the false blue sky above their heads, and even pictures of seagulls. Under the blue sky are the remaining 4 ships of the Straw Hats. There is also a little island nearby. Nami is lying on a beach chair on the island, drinking an iced drink leisurely. Seeing Luffy and others coming, he immediately took off his sunglasses in surprise. Luffy. Luffy leapt to Nami's side. Vivi immediately brought a drink. He was not polite, then took a sip. Get ready to go to the Fishman Island. Will it be dangerous? Robin said with a serious expression on his face. It is indeed safe to stay here, but what about the monsters in the deep sea? There is also the problem of oxygen. Don't worry, Robin, if there are deep sea monsters, leave them to me, Nami said confidently. Vivi's face was full of cold sweat. Miss Nami, your lightning will spread in the sea. Let me do it, I'll use acid rain to persuade some deep sea kings away. That's right. Seeing a few women chatting without any tension, Luffy had to grab Nami's hand and remove the record pointer from her wrist. I'll show you the way, let's chat, we'll be there soon. As he spoke, he jumped lightly and came to a door under the sky, opened the door and walked in. While at Twin Point, Crocus engineered intricate pathways into Laboon's body in order to inject him with tranquilizers. As soon as I entered the door, I saw Brooke and Frankie walking. Come over. Luffy, you're back, Frankie exclaimed. The inside of this whale is really amazing. There are passages everywhere. Mr. Luffy. Brooke stepped forward, plopped, and dropped to one knee. Huh? What's wrong with you? Luffy asked strangely. Before you invited me to join, I haven't given a proper reply. This time, please let me give a serious reply. Saying so, Brooke snapped out a very wanted warrant. That was wanted 50 years ago. The photo above is still Brooke's youthful appearance, full of flesh and blood. I, Brooke, was born in West Blue. I was originally the captain of the guard of a certain country. Later, I joined the Rumba Pirates as a swordsman and musician. After the captain died of an illness, I became a deputy. Lieutenant Captain. Encountered an enemy attack in the Devil's Triangle Sea area. The whole regiment was killed, and the bounty in front of him is 33 million Baileys. Afterwards, the soul returned from the underworld, resurrected in the form of a skeleton, and wandered aimlessly for 50 years. Now, I met the great benefactor, Captain Luffy, the Straw Hat, and fulfilled my wish of 50 years ago. One promise, great kindness and great virtue, will never be forgotten. Is it so grand? Luffy smiled and looked at Brook, not interrupting him. Just listen to him go on to say, thanks to Captain Luffy's attention, from today onwards, my life will be handed over to the Straw Hat Pirates, and I will be promoted to Captain Luffy. I will never drag everyone back. After a pause, his tone became more solemn. Your body will be smashed to pieces. Clap clap. Frankie laughed and applauded. Amazing speech. I can't see that you are still a very serious person. I've always been serious. Yo ho 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 ho. Brook looked up at Luffy with hollow eyes. Are you satisfied with this answer? Please allow me to join, Captain Luffy. I allow you to join, Brook. You are already a member of the Straw Hats. You have recruited a new crew member named Brook, a person with qualified abilities. Reward 400 Adventure City workers. Luffy folded his arms and nodded with a smile. Come with me, I'll take you to a good place. Yo ho 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 ho. Brook burst into tears. 50 years later, he not only met Laboon, but also met the new captain. Everyone was very kind, and he was not alienated from Skeleton City. He is very satisfied in his heart, and his gratitude to Luffy has reached the point where he can go up the Mountain of Swords and into the Sea of Fire without frowning. He stood up, lifted his skull, and took out his violin. Captain Luffy, let me play a song for you. What would you like to hear? While keeping up with the pace, while talking. Sing a song that Laboon likes to listen to. This time I went to the Fishman Island, but it was hard work. That's the song. Amid the sound of music, the three of them walked around in circles, and finally arrived at their destination. That's Laboon's eyes. Laboon seemed to have found them too, and let out a groan happily. Is there such a place? Frankie said incredulously. You can still see the outside from here. Be careful. Don't hurt Laboon. Luffy shook his head, glanced at the record pointer, tired of passing on Laboon. The lower you go, the darker the light. Laboon, can you see clearly in the dark? Laboon barks. It's good if you can see clearly. Follow my instructions. Dive at 12 o'clock. The huge island whale, full of people in its body, slowly headed towards the deep Poseidon country, the paradise of mermaids, the Fishman Island. While the Straw Hat crew stayed in Laboon's body and dived 10,000 meters into the deep sea. The Sabaody archipelago is still in disarray. Between Area 12 and Area 13, because of the power of Luffy's shock fruit, a terrifying gully several hundred meters long appeared. The Marines who came rushed gathered here, and many soldiers put on diving suits, and under the command of the officer, they jumped into the watercourt one after another. Hurry up, dive down, definitely find Sakazuki Admiral. Rear Admiral, who followed Akainu, hurriedly commanded his subordinates. Those with abilities falling into the sea will be completely powerless, and even Admiral will die if they are not rescued. If an Admiral is lost, it will be a huge disaster for the current headquarters. Kilometers under the sea. Akainu was soaked in water, and the strong water pressure was on his body. Just the water pressure is nothing. With his physique, he is not afraid of this at all, but the powerlessness all over his body makes it difficult for him to get out of trouble. Hurry up, someone. His eyes widened, silently waiting for rescue. The blood overflowing from the corner of his mouth attracted sea kings one after another. The giant beast in the darkness slowly rose up, showing a row of terrifying teeth, and opened its mouth to attack Akainu. Area 28, the lawless zone. Rayleigh took Shaki to hide here. On the shore, Rayleigh took a breath. I'm old, and it's still hard to face Marine Admiral. Shaki lit himself a women's cigarette and breathed out. Now your hideout is exposed and my little bar is destroyed. Will little monkey be safe? For Luffy, no problem. Rayleigh shook his head. The kid was much stronger than him. Shaki smiled and said, why don't you hide in Daughter's Island first? I can't stay here for a while, and I haven't seen Little Hancock for a long time. Rayleigh, I'm going to prepare a boat. Naval Headquarters. The headquarters destroyed in the war is now being rebuilt in an orderly manner. There are construction sites everywhere, and Marines have become construction workers. A little farther away from the construction site, there is a temporary UNC office. Boom. Zephyr slapped the table heavily, and said in disbelief, Sengoku, what does this mean? What are you talking about, Ranfa? Sengoku was at a loss. I heard the government decided on a new Shicibukai, is that the one? 7 years ago. Zephyr, who was still 65 years old, led his disciples to train at sea on a training ship, but was attacked by a pirate. All the beloved students except 2 were killed, and he himself lost a right arm in that battle. 7 years have passed. That pirate was going to be a Shichibukai? Zephyr couldn't accept it, and in anger, he ran to question Marshal Sengoku. Hearing his words, Sengoku remembered this, and fell silent at the moment. After a while, he opened his mouth and said, that's just a rumor, there is no such decision yet. Why did such news come out? This is a secret. Considering Zephyr's popularity in Marine, Sengoku can guess that there are probably some of his students who secretly told him the news. After all, even the current Marine 3 Admiral was taught by Zephyr when he first joined Marine. Most of the Vice Admirals in this department have to call Zephyr teacher. Don't take me for an idiot, Sengoku. Now that Shichibukai has 3 vacancies, won't it be announced together until the 3 of them are all funded? Zephyr said angrily. How long? A week? A month? A year? As long as there is strength, can anyone be a Shichibukai? Calm down, Zephyr. Sengoku also had a very headache, and said helplessly, this is a matter decided by the superiors, and we have no right to interfere. Yes, it was the 5 elders who decided that the title of 7 warlords of the sea was legally granted by the world government. Knowing this, Zephyr was so angry. Staring at Sengoku for a while, Zephyr took a deep breath, turned and left the temporary office. Not long after he left, Yin Zeng walked in. Garp. What's the matter with you? Sengoku said wearily. Akainu went to the Saboti archipelago? Garp asked in a deep voice. Then, fell into a period of silence. Do you want to kill the Straw Hat Luffy gang in the Saboti archipelago at all costs? Garp looked complicated. Sengoku, you asked me yesterday why the 5 elders are so serious about Luffy. Sorry, Garp, I asked unnecessary questions. Sengoku apologized. No need, he probably guessed it too. Just now, news came from Saboti archipelago that Straw Hat Luffy repelled Akainu and has gone to New World. During the battle, he used the second fruit ability, Shock Fruit. A person can only have one kind of fruit ability, which is a general rule. Today, someone breaks this law. There was only one possibility Sengoku could think of. The Straw Hat Luffy owned before can transform into a silver-white shape. That fruit has a special power, which allows him to master the second fruit ability. Only in this way will it be so valued by the 5 elders that it will be obliterated at all costs. Not only did he think so, even Garp thought so too. Sorry, Sengoku, I've been giving you a lot of trouble. Garp looked at his old friend for many years and apologized with a relieved smile. He took a letter out of his pocket and put it on the desk. Here is my letter of resignation, don't stop me. Sengoku's eyes widened in disbelief. Garp, are you going to abandon justice? Sengoku, justice is something that exists objectively. It will not disappear just because a person's identity changes, and it will not be represented just because he puts on a marine uniform. Leaving a word calmly, Garp laughed and left. The tears of laughter came out. Goodbye, Sengoku. When the people disappeared into the office, Sengoku didn't come back to his senses. He stared blankly at the letter of resignation on the table, completely at a loss. Marine hero, Iron Fist, Monkey D. Garp, has played for naval headquarters for decades, made countless contributions in his life, and refused to be promoted to admiral several times. Now at the age of 76, he resigned from vice admiral and left Marine. Garp. Sengoku put his hands on his forehead, exhausted. He couldn't even say the words to stay. Garp walked out of the office feeling a sudden sense of relief. When the position conflicts with the family relationship, Garp is struggling and doesn't know what to do. But when the 5 elders gave the order, whatever it takes, he finally made his decision. Justice will not disappear. Even if he gives up this uniform, he is still him, and he can still do what he wants to do. The core of the contradiction is not a position, but a life and death struggle between the world government and the sun god. Suddenly, Zephyr's voice came from beside him. Zephyr. Garp laughed, and said, "What's the matter? You have a bad expression, and you're constipated? You're getting older, so you need to pay attention to maintenance." Zephyr is serious. Before the three admirals Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru, the position of marshal still belonged to the old era of Kuang. Black-armed Zephyr. Garp the Fist. Buddha's Sengoku. It is naval headquarters who has the highest prestige of the trio. He is the former admiral, and Sengoku later became admiral, but Garp has always refused to be promoted on the grounds that he is not free. "I heard what you and Sengoku said," Zephyr said calmly. "You want to leave Marine? You want to persuade me? Forget it, I have already decided." Garp's smile faded away, and his face was full of seriousness. "When first leave Marine, I will build a ship of my own, train some young children with potential, and teach them well. The world still needs the power of young people. Do this and you will become a criminal. Ha ha ha, that's true." Garp rubbed his chin and said with a smile, "The government does not allow other countries to have marine forces, and most countries can't afford to support marines. If I do this, I will bring trouble to my hometown, right? Forget it, this issue is not important. Come with me." Suddenly, Zephyr grinned and issued an invitation. Just build a new marine together, without the constraints of the government. Hearing this, Garp was dumbfounded. He felt that he was messed up enough, but he didn't expect that this guy was even messier than him. New marine. Dare to think. It is impossible for the world government to allow such forces to exist. When it is not big, maybe there is nothing. Once there is a tendency to expand, it will definitely usher in a blow. Moreover, how to solve the problem of military expenditure? Wait. You're leaving Marine? Garp suddenly came to his senses. Why? Let me seriously think about it. I was too weak in the past. Pirates, it is better to die. Moreover, those non-member countries have not been protected for a long time. This kind of world is unreasonable. Admiral, who has never killed a pirate in his life, said something that shocked Garp at this moment. Are you serious? Of course. Join forces with me. Ha 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 ha. This makes me unable to refuse. That's agreed. By the way, what's the situation with your grandson? Isn't the five elders' malice towards him unusual? About that, I'll have a drink somewhere. Two veterans walked together and disappeared into the construction site. Deep sea. Under Luffy's instructions, Laboon kept heading for deeper seas. The bottom of the sea is not flat. There are undulating mountains everywhere, trenches, volcanoes, strange currents, strange things can be seen everywhere. The deeper you go, the thicker the darkness. Deep sea creatures and shallow sea creatures are completely different life forms. Occasionally meet sea kings, even much bigger than Laboon. There are luminescent jellyfish in groups. There are algae-like tentacles, motionless, drifting with the current, until the prey is close, and will not deliver a fatal blow. There are also deep-sea fish with lanterns hanging above their heads, and Qian Ankong with a mouth full of sharp teeth. Even with Luffy's Conqueror's deterrence, the road is unimpeded. When approaching the sea area where the Fishmen Island is located, the darkness finally began to dissipate, and the light gradually came into view. That's. Brook's jaw dropped to the ground in shock. The three stood in Laboon's left eye, looking at the bright land in the distance. Under the red line like an iron wall, there is a huge void. In the center of the hollow is an island surrounded by two spheres with a small top and a large bottom. Above the island, at the top of the hollow, the light shone like the sun. It's unbelievable, in this deep sea, there is still sunshine. Brook murmured, it's really shocking, ah. Although I don't have a chin, yo-ho-ho-ho. Frankie also had a shocked expression. Around the Fishmen Island, there are huge and glowing tree roots. I've heard of it before, but it's the first time I've actually seen it. Is that Sunshine Eve? Frankie exclaimed. It can absorb the sunlight on the ground and release it at the roots. It's so beautiful, the Fishmen Island. In the endless darkness, a little sunshine is so dazzling. The island in the distance has a huge double-layer semicircular bubble membrane, which completely isolates the seawater outside. But, how to get in? Brook asked suspiciously. Rush in. Point 0. Luffy smiled and said, can you see that there is an entrance on the front of the big ball below? That's the gas storage. Generally, ships that come here can only enter through there by submitting an application. Of course they don't need it anymore. As pirates, illegal entry is a routine operation. Laboon, rush in. With sharp eyes, Laboon locked onto the Fishman Island, wagged his tail and accelerated his sprint. Wait, Luffy, are those sea beasts? Near the Fishman Island, on the way of Laboon, 6 huge sea creatures can be seen entrenched. It is said to be huge, but in fact it is not that big. BU is just a younger brother in comparison. They all look strange. Rhino, orangutan, seahorse, lion, elephant, bear. It is somewhat similar to animals on land, but each has fins. Seemingly noticing Laboon's arrival, the 6 sea kings all showed hostility, and their expressions became fierce. On the head of one of the walruses, a murloc can also be seen. Wearing a black suit and a black hat. Noticing Laboon diving from a high place, the murloc pressed his hat and couldn't help frowning. Huh. Island whales. Are you kidding me? How could island whales come to the deep sea? After a pause, he laughed. Hamahamahamo, good luck. The meat of island whales is a very delicious food, and they usually move in groups, a rare species that is difficult to hunt. Come on, it. Immediately, 6 sea beasts attacked Laboon together. Captain Luffy. Brook exclaimed. That's the Murloc pirates. No, the new Murloc pirates. What do you say that is? Forget. Luffy's eyes were fixed, and his eyes showed a royal look, and he immediately moved towards the 6 sea beasts. Roll. The Overlord will instantly made the 6 sea kings show fearful expressions. They slammed on the brakes, and scattered like birds and beasts. The Murloc on the walrus head was furious. What are you doing? Come back. Hello. Doesn't listen to orders at all. The next moment, there was another wave of conquerors. The Murloc's consciousness was hit hard, as if someone had hit him with a sap, and he rolled his eyes and fell to the ground. Here it goes again. Damn it. Before he fell into a coma, the Murloc couldn't help but say something. Again. Luffy frowned slightly. Never mind it, Laboon, rush in. Ah. Laboon let out a long roar, jumped over many sea beasts quickly, and slammed into the bubble membrane outside the Fishman Island. It is a double-layer structure. After passing through the first layer, it is air. When you pass through the second floor, you really enter the Fishman Island. Immediately, the magnificent scenery came into the eyes of the 3 of Luffy. Too late to appreciate. Probably the location of the invasion is not right. After passing through the second membrane, Laboon found himself in midair. He opened his mouth wide in fright, and his whole body fell towards the sea below. Boom. The huge monster with a body length of 400 meters fell into the water, stirring up huge waves, which immediately attracted the attention of the Fishman Island. All of a sudden, countless soldiers rushed towards this place. You have arrived at the new island, the Fishman Island. Reward 10,000 Adventure City. Sailing in the Sea of Paradise for 2 days, get 200 adventure coins. Brook joined the group and was rewarded with 400 adventure coins. Arrive at Sabodi Archipelago, reward 1,000 adventure coins. Arrive at the Fishman Island, reward 10,000 Adventure City. Counting the previous deposits. Adventure coin, 39,145. New heights. At this time, falling into the sea from a high place, it was not only Laboon himself who fell into the sea and stared at gold stars. Brook and Frankie, who stayed in its left eye, as well as the people on the ship in its stomach, were all dizzy. Are you all right, you two? Laboon, are you all right? Luffy is more worried about Laboon. Falling into the sea from a height of tens of meters is nothing to ordinary people, but to the huge Laboon, it may be very uncomfortable. Ah, Laboon let out a feeble cry. You've worked hard, take a break. Luffy greeted the two, turned and went back to the stomach. As soon as they left the eyeballs, soldiers from the Fishman Island rushed over one after another. Seeing Laboon floating on the sea, everyone showed a dumbfounded expression. Is it an island whale? Why do island whales break through their bubble membranes and come here? I thought it was a pirate invasion. It was scary. The soldiers muttered. Holding a trident, a male mermaid with a straight face and long sea blue wavy hair came to the front and stood on the shore, frowning and staring at Laboon. The Fishmen Island Dragon Palace Kingdom, the Great Prince, Shark Mermaid, Star. His Royal Highness Shark Star, island whale meat is a very delicious ingredient, why not? A subordinate suggested. Sha Xing frowned, and immediately warned. Be alert, something is coming out. As soon as his words fell, the dizzy Laboon started to vomit, vomiting out several ships in his stomach. That. What? Shark Star was shocked. The expressions of soldiers gradually became frightened. 5 ships were floating on the sea, and they were flying the same flag. Pirate flag. That's the Straw Hat Pirates, someone shouted. The deck of the Mary. It hurts, it hurts. I hit the mast, my head hurts. Chopper, please help me, I really want to die. Usopp held his forehead. Just bumped and shouted. Sanji was speechless. As soon as he turned his head to look at the coast, he couldn't help but say, is this the legendary underwater paradise? It doesn't look like we are very welcome. Zoro gripped the hilt of the knife without saying a word, ready to fight at any time. Sunny's deck. It's a murloc. No, a merman. Nami has bad memories of murlocs. There are all of them, they are really strange looks. Luffy stepped onto the bow, looked at the many soldiers on the shore, and finally settled on Sharkstar. Sharkstar also stared at Luffy. Straw Hat Luffy. I am Sha Xing, the Great Prince of the Dragon Palace Kingdom. What are you doing here? Illegal entry. According to your answer, we will take a different attitude. He yelled loudly, and Un was quite calm. Of course, the main reason is that the bounty is too high. Ordinary pirates don't have this kind of treatment, and there is a high probability that they will fight on the spot. For the pirates who came down from the sea in the past, 9 out of 10 ships would sink, and the survival rate was only 10%. The pirates who have successfully landed on the Fishmen Island almost always do one thing. Take the mermaid. Later, with the protection of Whitebeard's name, this situation was a little bit better. Don't be so nervous. Luffy laughed and jumped from the Sunny to the shore. Many soldiers of the Fishmen Island raised their weapons one after another, showing hostility on their alert faces. And following the actions of the captain, the rest of the Straw Hat crew stepped on the moonwalk one after another, and went ashore with their own abilities. Bartolomeo gestured to activate his ability. Luffy raised his hand to stop him, and said with a smile. Just come to see and do nothing. A pirate who says nothing and does nothing is really not convincing. Sharkstar was silent for a moment, and said. I hope you are really just here for sightseeing. I will take you to Dragon Palace City to meet your father. Please come with me. As he spoke, he turned around and led the way, while winking at the soldiers around him. The soldiers understood, and immediately left the queue and left quickly. Nami and the others looked at each other. Unexpected enthusiasm. She said in surprise. Could it be that they are planning to take us to the palace, but it is actually a trap? It's possible. Maybe they will prepare a banquet for us, and then poison the food. Luffy's head is worth 3.5 billion. Robin said the poison plan calmly. Don't say such terrible things, Miss Robin. Cold sweat dripped from Vivi's forehead, and asked, Mr. Luffy? Let's go. Go see the king first. Everyone went to Dragon Palace City, and Luffy arranged for someone to leave the certificate. Frankie offered to stay by himself. During the impact just now, the hull of the Melee was damaged. I'll keep it, just to repair the ship. Thank you for your hard work, let those CP9s help you. Learn. After a simple arrangement, Luffy took his subordinates and followed Shark to the palace. The Fishmen Island, Strait Kingdom. This country has a population of about 5 million. The king who rules this country now is named Neptune, who once had the reputation of the Great Knight of the Sea. Dragon Palace City. Located on the top floor of the Fishmen Island where the sun can be seen, it is a large luxurious palace built of large coral reefs, shells and other building materials, with a giant dragon sculpture plate. Ballroom. King Neptune is entertaining a distinguished guest. The honored guest's name is Charlotte Katakuri. Tall, with amaranth short hair, muscular, slender legs, wearing a white scarf like a flower, covering the lower half of the face. The overall clothing style is full of strong black metal style. He leaned back in the chair, with his legs stretched across the banquet table. He tossed a coin in his hand, but his eyes were not on the king, but on another person across the table. Original 7 warlords of the sea, Seaman, Jinbei. That's the condition. You, the Fishmen Island, get your mother's protection, and you are the price, Lord. The fat blue man Jinbei looked heavy. As soon as Papa Whitebeard died, the Fishmen Island immediately lost its deterrent power. In the foreseeable future, this island, which is the necessary place for pirates to go to the New World, will usher in an era of chaos again. Right now, there are several supernova pirates gathered on this island. At this time, the messenger of 4 Emperors Big Mom came and was willing to provide shelter, but one of the prices was that he himself, and the pirate group he led, had to join Charlotte Linlin's command and work for her. As for Marine, just kidding, Marine is unreliable. This place is 10,000 meters deep in the ocean, so Marine wouldn't come here on purpose to help them deal with pirates' harassment. 10% survival rate, same for Marine. Although 200 years ago, the Dragon Palace Kingdom became a member of the world government, and every year it pays a lot of gold. But in terms of treatment, they are not human beings, but fish. Mermaid trading in Saboti Archipelago is quite prosperous. I see. After serious consideration, Jinbei agreed to this condition. But as soon as he opened his mouth, a soldier hurried in. Your Majesty Neptune, the big pirate Straw Hat Luffy and his gang have landed near Mermaid Bay. His Royal Highness Sharkstar is leading them to Dragon Palace. What? Neptune was taken aback. Of course, it is impossible for him not to know about such a big event as the Summit War. Like Jinbei, it is the original 7 warlords of the sea, but the bounty is as high as 3.5 billion. This big pirate also came here. Straw Hat. Jinbei was taken aback. What is he doing here? Watch. The soldier had just uttered the first word, and Katakuri continued his words. Sightseeing, he said so himself. Saying so, a red light flashed in Katakuri's eyes. The knowledgeable Haki immediately spread out of the palace. At the same time, below Dragon Palace City. This is a giant flounder, responsible for transporting foreign visitors. Everyone please come up. Sharkstar said to Straw Hat crew. Everyone in the Straw Hats was amazed. Luffy suddenly raised his head and looked at Fang Wei in Dragon Palace City. What's the matter, Mr. Luffy? Vivi noticed his expression and asked with concern. Just use your knowledge to investigate. Luffy's eyes narrowed slightly, and the same sense of knowledge spread towards the sky, and he quickly caught the breath of the other party. The breath is quite extraordinary. A person who can reach this level is a master. Not only that, he didn't perceive another good breath. Is that you? A thought wave passed quickly. Ballroom. Is that you? The voice suddenly sounded from the bottom of his heart, causing Katakuri's complexion to change slightly. So strong. He was just tentatively showing off his knowledge, and he was noticed in an instant. The other party's knowledge is not inferior to his. As expected of a man of 3.5 billion. Katakuri's face was solemn. He narrowed his eyes slightly, thinking about how to deal with it. Not long after, Straw Hat crew, led by Sharkstar, entered the banquet hall. As soon as he entered the door, Luffy launched an attack on the spot. Spy on other people casually. Big Mom's son is really rude. Do you mean to start a war with me? Although he also often spies on others. Katakuri put his legs off the table, stood up and faced Luffy, with a calm tone. I am Charlotte Katakuri. First time meeting. Straw Hat Captain, Monkey D. Luffy. Charlotte Katakuri, the highest masterpiece of the Charlotte family, one of the 4 desert generals of the Big Mom pirates. A bounty of 1,057,000,000 Baileys is offered. Luffy let out a low laugh, and the next moment, Haki rolled towards Katakuri in an instant with a majestic look. The black and red lightning is like a tentacle, locking on the opponent. Boom. The banquet hall was shaking. The tables and chairs, the chandeliers, the wall decorations, everything was shaking. Katakuri's complexion changed. He has already put on a low-ranking posture, but the other party will not let him go, and it is impossible for him to lose face of the 4 emperors. The same conquerors burst forth. The collision between the 2 strands of Haki created a gust of wind in the banquet hall in an instant. Everyone retreated, and King Neptune fell from his stool and had to raise his hands to resist the attack of the wind and waves. Wait. Wait. He hurriedly shouted. Straw Hat Luffy, Katakuri, you two, stop, are you going to tear this place down? Luffy ignored him and continued to strengthen his conquerors. IV2. IV3. Boom. A roar. Katakuri's conquerors was dispersed. He staggered back 2 steps, his expression changed greatly. So strong. IV4. IV5. A heavier pressure hits the face. Katakuri's heart was shaken, and he was almost facing his mother. Straw Hats. Are you going to be an enemy of our Big Mom pirates? Katakuri was under tremendous pressure, and his eyes were clouded. At this time, the fool should also react. It's just a probe with knowledge and knowledge, there is no need to go to war at all. The other party obviously took advantage of this to make trouble, and completely ignored her mother. For the enemy. Luffy grinned. The highest masterpiece of the Charlotte family, arrest you. What price is Charlotte Linlin willing to pay to redeem you? Katakuri's heart sank. The atmosphere in the banquet hall suddenly became tense. Straw Hat Crew's boat stop. Next to the Mary. Frankie repairs the hull with a wooden hammer. Lu Chi and Kaku also had to help together. As prisoners, they had their hearts taken away, and they had no way to resist. Khalifa and Bluno helped carry wood and iron ingots. At this time, a group of Murlocs appeared one after another. The few people in the lead look strange. Are you the Straw Hat Crew? The talking Murloc looks drunk, with a human upper body and octopus tentacles in the lower half, holding a samurai sword in one hand and a wine gourd in the other. Huh? Frankie glanced at the other party. What's the matter? Hi, have you gone yet? Are you a boatman? The octopus Murloc hiccuped and said, hey. I am the new Murloc pirates, Leopard. In East Blue, your Captain Straw Hat Luffy killed the Murloc pirates Arlong group. The Arlongs, the Murloc pirates, and Frankie are not interested. Anyway, it's for revenge. Frankie buttoned his booger and continued with the repair work. Kill. No, grab it, F*K him, Pigeon Man. My name is Rob Lucci, Katie Frame. Lu Chi put down the hammer expressionlessly, and stood up together with Ka. Next moment, shave. Both of them disappeared in place. The docking point of the Straw Hat ship, CP9, under Frankie's order, fought with the new Murloc pirates. The other side. Dragon Palace Kingdom. The conqueror's hockey that enveloped the banquet hall dissipated, and the vibration ceased. King Neptune breathed a sigh of relief. There was cold sweat on Katakuri's forehead, and he was just about to speak to ease the tension with Luffy in the Straw Hat. Just at this very moment. Predict future. His pupils dilated, and the Straw Hat in front of him suddenly disappeared in place. Before he had time to think about it, he turned around immediately, and the opponent's punch had already hit him brazenly. A punch aimed at the chest. Seeing his future self, he was punched to the knees. Katakuri's face turned cold, and it was unbelievable that at the moment of facing the attack, a circular gap was suddenly opened at the part about to be hit. Hakoku. Luffy looked as usual, and also predicted the future. Level 5 Conquerors wraps around a punch and strikes out. Boom. This punch hit Katakuri's abdomen, and in an instant, the terrifying impact penetrated the opponent's armed body. Like a pale wave of light, it passed through his body, passed over Usopp's head, and went straight out of the door. This punch pierced Dragon Palace City, split the outer ocean, penetrated the outer double-layer bubble membrane, and finally disappeared in the deep sea. Ah! Usopp covered his face and screamed sharply, Luffy, you almost killed me. Thump. Katakuri knelt down on his knees, with one hand propped on the ground, the other clutching his belly. With a bang, warm blood spurted out from his mouth, staining his scarf red. Katakuri's eyes widened, his pupils full of disbelief. Future sight. Failed. He is no stranger to this attack. Mom has used it before, but in terms of power, it is even slightly inferior. Cough. Cough cough. What do you mean? You. Katakuri coughed heavily, the smell of blood filled his mouth, and he looked at Luffy in the Straw Hat in front of him with sinister eyes. You are not the only one who can see the future. You are too confident in your own knowledge, Linlin's second son. Luffy reached out and pulled the chair beside him and sat down, crossing his legs. Seeing this scene, Zoro grinned. The Spear of Elbaf. It's a move I learned in Little Garden. Huh? Brook yelled. Zoro, you can do such a powerful move? Well, it's just not the same. Luffy's fist is wrapped around Conqueror's, which is much more powerful. Zoro shook his head. Hakoku is a combo skill, not a solo skill, Waiguo. Zero. Although it can also be used alone, the power of the move will be weakened a lot. This is probably also taken into consideration, and the Luffy group will be integrated into it. The result was outrageous, and he even beat the Deputy Emperor with one move. Katakuri's body is trembling at the moment, and it will be difficult to get up for a while. Luo, bring him out of Heart Lake Merchant. Luffy ordered casually. Luo immediately took a step forward, and from behind Katakuri, a black tiger licked his heart. With a pop, a square jelly cube fell into Luffy's hands. Katakuri's pupils shrank suddenly, his face pale. Your mother has the red history text in her hand, right? Luffy lightly tossed the heart in her hand, and said with a smile, don't worry, I won't do anything to you. It's just bad luck to meet you here. There are 4 red historical texts, and he knows where 3 of them are. One piece is in the hands of 4 emperors Big Mom. A piece in the land of giant elephants, Zo. One piece at Wano-kuni. As for the last piece, Roger found it on the Fishman Island more than 20 years ago. Now missing. Really? You also want to be the One Piece? Katakuri was very stubborn. Even if he was in pain like falling apart, he would not say a word, but said coldly, the one who wants to become the One Piece is our mother, Big Mom. Luffy was not interested in flirting with him, and squeezed the heart in his hand. Puff. Cough cough cough. Katakuri still didn't make a sound, vomiting blood with a pale face. Screw me. Now, Luffy admired this guy a little bit. Don't be so resistant. I can also tell your mother a piece of information about another piece of red stone. This information, plus you as a hostage, is a good deal for her to get a rubbing. Luffy smiled and said, everyone is a comrade aiming at the final island. It's not good to fight and kill. You have to learn to share. When you find the big secret treasure, it's not too late to fight. Katakuri. Who the hell punched Hakoku the moment they met? Do you say it's not good to fight after you've fought? With a cold snort, he didn't want to talk nonsense. Shaking his head, Luffy turned his head to look at Jinbei. Yo, Haishia Jinbei, he was also Shichibukai before, it's a pity that we didn't get to meet each other. During the Summit War, he didn't see Jinbei. I thought this guy was still locked in a big prison, but I didn't expect to meet him here. Ace's brother, no, Straw Hat Luffy. Jinbei said in a deep voice. About the Summit War, I want to express my gratitude to you. Although Father Whitebeard still died in Marineford in the end, at least Ace is still alive. As he spoke, he got up from the chair and took a standard soil seat. At that time, the old man was imprisoned, and when Blackbeard led people to escape, the old man also escaped, but had a death fight with the director Magellan, and when he escaped from the prison and rushed to the battlefield, the war was over. I see. No wonder I didn't see this guy during Summit War. Suddenly, Luffy pointed to Katakuri who was kneeling beside him. Why is this guy here? He can probably guess it too, but let's just ask. Big Mom wants to lend us her pirate flag, the Fishman Island, so I want this old man to join the Big Mom pirates. Jinbei didn't hide anything. He glanced at Katakuri who had been severely beaten, and felt a slight headache. The guest was beaten. Is Big Mom going to vent their anger on the Fishman Island? If the Straw Hat Pirates and the Big Mom Pirates fight, which side should he help? Ha ha ha. Just this little thing. I'll lend you the Straw Hat Pirate flag, you're welcome. Luffy laughed, turned around and said to Mr. 5. Dig it out from his mouth, Big Mom's contact number. Yes. Luffy the world. The booger man immediately walked up to Katakuri, grabbed him by the collar, and dragged him out. A moment later, there was a bang explosion outside the door. Everyone. The explosion won't do anything to Katakuri, but the booger is a mental attack. I don't know how long this big cadre of the 4 emperors can last. Luffy then looked at King Neptune, and said apologetically. I'm sorry, King Neptune, for flattering your distinguished guest. You are done. What else can I say? Neptune returned to his seat, folded his hands on his chest, and sighed. Straw Hat Luffy, I'd appreciate it if you could lend us the pirate flag, but it's going to piss off Big Mom. After a pause, he immediately shouted, hurry up and serve the delicious food. Soon, cute mermaids rearranged the messy banquet hall. Straw Hat crew were seated one after another and were warmly received. Old colorist Sanji has nosebleeds, and his eyes never left these mermaids. Heaven, Luffy, my dream has come true. I have no regrets in this life. Puff. Nosebleeds are pouring into the sky. Sanji. Don't you want to find all blue? Chopper shouted hurriedly. Doctor, come to the doctor. Sanji is bleeding profusely. Ah, I am the doctor. Qiwuhai and Luo, who just wanted to get up, sat back silently. Really, it's just a little nosebleed. Luo helped his forehead helplessly. Ha ha ha. Luffy couldn't help laughing. You can stay here if you want, Sanji. He will not stop anyone who wants to leave. Well, except for Nami and the others. After a short farce, everyone enjoyed the food. Luffy conveniently opened the adventure store, which is a must-do every day. Taking a look at his adventure coin balance, Luffy was full of confidence and decided to stop swiping. After swiping 4 times in a row, I finally saw the item I wanted. Wash fruit. After eating, the effect of all fruit items will be washed away, and 99% of the adventure coins will be returned. The price is 1,000 adventure coins. New product. See you for the first time. Luffy's eyes lit up, and he thought, it's convenient for me to recycle the adventure coins. That's right, if the crew members who have spent a lot of adventure coins to train leave the group, the adventure coins I have accumulated so hard will not be in vain, right? Regardless of whether it is useful or not, in short, it is. Adventure coin 1000 read on. Awakening fruit, boxed. 3-in-1 gift box, 100% awakening of demon fruit power after eating. There is no possibility of failure. The price is 50,000 adventure coins. Cannot afford. Skip. The next few items are all old acquaintances. A 6-style fruit, buy it. Hockey fruit gift box, buy. And the last blank fruit. If you have money, keep refreshing. I saw 3 more good items. Awakening fruit, just 10,000, solid. Height fruit big gift box, only 3,000, buy. Self-healing fruit, 100. What's the difference with free gift? Low-end version of Shadow, buy it. Adventure coin. 39,145 right pointing arrow 17645. Adventure warehouse. Hockey fruit 11. 6 style fruit 7. Longevity fruit 3. Washing fruit 1. Blank fruit 1. Awakening fruit 1. Height fruit 10. Self-healing fruit 1. Consumed more than 20,000 yuan in one breath. One awakening fruit took up half, and the other blank fruit took up the remaining half. Forget it. Anyway, the front is New World, with a guaranteed income of 3,000 adventure coins a day. With that in mind, Luffy closed the shop contentedly. Looking at the lively atmosphere of the banquet, he got up silently and left. No one was alarmed. Sanji recovered quickly with Chopper's rescue, with 2 napkins stuffed in his nose. However, whenever a mermaid passes by him, this guy will still look like a pig brother. Stop watching, Sanji. Watch again and you'll bleed to death. It's okay, Chopper, it's my wish to die here. No. Don't you see the disgusted expressions of those mermaid ladies? Usopp rolled his eyes. Hee hee. Robin couldn't help laughing, turned his head and said to the king, King Neptune, our captain said that there is a piece of historical text on your Fishman Island? Historical text. Ah, that kind of square stone. Neptune put his hands on his chest, nodded and said, in the forest of the sea. W. After a pause, he asked in surprise, can you understand that kind of writing? Yes. Robin admitted generously, when I was on Sky Island, I saw another stone tablet, which said that there is an ancient weapon in Mermaid Island, Poseidon, with the name of God. Shock. Neptune's complexion changed. Is the weapon that drives the Sea Kings really here? Shirahoshi is not a weapon. Neptune's tone was very dissatisfied, and then he realized that he had slipped his mouth, and his forehead was suddenly covered with sweat. Shirahoshi. Robin grasped the key words, and smiled with eyes like crescent moons. Can you please explain in detail? Your Majesty the King. The other side. Luffy left the banquet hall, followed the guidance of knowledge, and came to a heavy stone door. The stone gate was very tall, and it was slightly open to reveal a gap, and it was pitch black inside. Around the stone gate, there are some swords, axes and axes everywhere, stuck on the wall in a mess. Don't you know how to clean up the place where the princess lives? These swords are inserted here, it's really shameful. Luffy cursed in his heart, reached out and pushed the door open. Enter the back door and close the door immediately. The sound of opening and closing the door aroused the sleepy man's Jhin. Who? The voice is very squeamish, giving the image of a doormat. Monkey D. Luffy, your master has returned. Luffy smirked. Suddenly, there was a sound of palms groping for something, and the next moment, the light dispelled the darkness. It was a very huge mermaid, about 10 meters in length. The upper body is human, with long flowing pink hair, and the lower body is human fishtail, with pink and red fish scales. Mermaid, Shirahoshi, contemporary Poseidon. She was lying on a huge shell-soft bed, wearing a pair of shell-shaped earrings, big eyes like sapphires, a face as beautiful as Xiao, and a plump body. He only wears a bra on the top, which is still lace and is also pink. Clearly, the princess has a soft spot for pink. At this time, looking at the uninvited guest Luffy, there were tears in his big eyes. Are you here to kill me? He spoke in fear, and used honorifics. Take you out to play, let's go. Luffy laughed and said, don't worry, you are safe with me, your admirer can't do anything. Huh? Shirahoshi stopped crying and didn't have time to cry. Go out to play. Shirahoshi visibly showed his heart fluttering for a moment, but quickly shook his head. I have stayed in this hard shell tower for many years. Although I yearn for the outside world very much, I still cannot go out for safety. Don't believe me? I'm your father's guest. You came from the sea. Why is it my master? Shirahoshi moved his head curiously. Compared with her huge body, Luffy seemed very small. You were so young. She couldn't help laughing. Probably instinctively felt that there was no danger, so I relaxed. Small? Luffy grinned and transformed into a sun god in an instant. Gigantic. Blink and become a little bigger than Shirahoshi. Shirahoshi opened his beautiful eyes incredulously, and covered his mouth. Changed, bigger. Will all human beings grow bigger? Men get bigger, but I'm good at getting bigger. Luffy answered solemnly. Unfortunately, 14-year-old Shirahoshi never understood his insidious moves. Yes, is that so? It's amazing. Her eyes are bright, really. Luffy. Delay, pure innocence overcomes black belly. Like a punch to the cotton, Luffy felt helpless. It suddenly changed back to its original size, sat down on the table again, and explained seriously. I am the sun god, and being bigger is just one of my abilities. Shirahoshi blinked, a puzzled look on his delicate face. Forget it. It's not important. You don't want to go out for a walk. Stay in this small room all the time, be careful of depression. In the previous life, I often saw the news about depression. Let's not say whether those people are true or not, but Luffy thinks that Shirahoshi is really likely to be depressed. When it came to going for a walk, Shirahoshi's bright eyes showed a hint of joy, but soon dimmed. How long have you been here? 8 years. Ever since a man named Vander Daken kept sending letters proposing marriage, my lord father let me live here. Shirahoshi curled up on a bed of shells, wrapping his arms around his tail. Because few people chat with her, she shares her own story unpreparedly. If you subtract 8 years from 14 years old, the answer is 6 years old. At first it was a letter of marriage proposal, then it turned into a threatening letter, and then it turned into other swords, guns and axes. For Vander Daken, Luffy is really powerless to complain. Although the opponent's motives are not pure, the purpose is not purely Shirahoshi, but the power she possesses. But to be honest, Shirahoshi's character itself is a relatively innocent type, and he is easy to get along with. To be hated by a woman like Shirahoshi. Female fish, not right, female fish? Forget it. A mermaid is more appropriate. Don't be afraid, people like that can be resolved with my eyes. While chatting with Shirahoshi and entertaining him, Luffy took out the awakening fruit from the system. Worth 10,000 adventure coins, an expensive item that will surely awaken one's ability after eating. For whom to eat? Luffy thought carefully for a moment. Both Nami and Vivi are Logia, and he really doesn't know what the effect of Logia's awakening will be. Besides the two of them, there is also the Empress. I don't know if the Empress's fruit has awakened. I will ask next time I have a chance. And Luo. Once Luo's op fruit is awakened, it will also have very powerful power. But there is only one fruit, and it is obviously used on himself first. Lord Luffy, what is this? Shirahoshi moved his face closer curiously. The white fruit is about the same shape as an apple, but a little smaller. Want to eat? It tastes good. The fruit of the system, not to mention the specific effect, the more expensive one is to eat. Can I eat it? Shirahoshi's face was full of joy. No. Luffy opened his mouth and took a bite. In an instant, shock fruit was awakened. As if he was born with it, he has mastered a new kind of power in the dark. Well. Shirahoshi puffed up her cheeks, it's so annoying, I asked her if I didn't give it. Luffy laughed, and handed out the fruit of awakening that he took a bite of. I'm here to test the poison for you, do you want more? After eating the first bite of the awakening fruit, the effect will be produced, and it will be the same whether you eat it or not. Hearing this, Shirahoshi immediately felt embarrassed, and it turned out that Master Luffy was wrongly blamed. Sorry. She apologized first, then held out her hands graciously. The awakened fruit, which was originally smaller than an apple, fell into Shirahoshi's palm, and the unit of measurement has changed from piece to grain. Is it really delicious? You'll know if you try it. Shaking his head, Luffy silently digested the power of awakening, and reached out to pick up a pink stick beside him. Eyes narrowed, shock fruit's power unleashed. Next moment, the pink stick began to vibrate slightly. Luffy put it on the table, and the vibration wouldn't go away. The awakened shock fruit can attach the power of vibration to other objects. He thought to himself, see the big from the small. Since it can be attached to external objects, it can naturally create a space with strong earthquakes. However, this place is obviously not suitable for testing one's own abilities, so Luffy let it go. Tasty. Suddenly, Shirahoshi's joyful voice reached his ears. Luffy came back to his senses, looked up at the girl, and said with a smile, of course, it's 10,000 after all. Just too little, Lord Luffy. Shirahoshi looked at Luffy wistfully, wanting more. In this regard, Luffy can only share with both hands, nothing to do. Huh. This is bubble coral. Why is it moving all the time? Suddenly discovering a pink stick vibrating on the table, Shirahoshi picked it up curiously. Luffy's expression was suddenly a little subtle. Bubble coral is a special item unique to the Fishman Island. It looks like a short branch coral. When you press the top of the coral, a bubble that can hold a person will appear, allowing the user sitting on top of the bubble to float in midair within the range of the Fishman Island. When I came to the palace here from the Fishman Island below, the big prince shark also showed it to everyone. Fortunately, the vibration force attached to the bubble coral was not much, and it stopped soon. Otherwise, Luffy always feels that something is wrong. Let's go. I'll take you for a walk outside. With this thing, you can go anywhere on the Fishman Island. Where do you want to go? I want to go to Sea Forest. The two got to know each other a lot, and Shirahoshi was really moved this time, and said hesitantly, it's just that, running out without permission will make my father's heart break. Who said you were going to sneak away? Have you always wanted to sneak away? Huh. Shirahoshi blushed. Haha, let's go. Go to the banquet hall to meet your father. I said to take you for a walk, he will definitely agree. Really? Really, it's a puppy who lied to you. Luffy jumped off the table in one leap, went to the door and piled the heavy gate. Immediately, the outside sun shone in, making Shirahoshi nervously clench the bubble coral in his hand. For the first time in so many years, I saw the door fully opened. Lord Luffy, it's a hungry puppy. She pressed the button happily, and soon, an air bubble wrapped her fishtail. By the way, you'd better wear a coat and run around in a bra, it will cause trouble for others. For example, a lecherous kappa might die on the spot. Yes, ballroom. Under Robin's step-by-step questioning, Neptune quickly confessed the whole thing. Every few hundred years on the Fishman Island, A mermaid princess who can communicate with the Sea Kings will be born. But, Shirahoshi is by no means a weapon. Even if I risk my life, I will not. You are allowed to attack Shirahoshi. Neptune frowned into a cross. About Poseidon, he still learned from Roger. More than 20 years ago, Goldie Roger, who had not yet completed the Grand Line, came to the Fishmen Island and asked him similar questions. At that time, Shirahoshi was not born yet. Poseidon turned out to be a mermaid princess. Robin was very surprised by this and fell into deep thought. Mermaid princess. Sanji has automatically drawn a picture of a mermaid in his mind. An ordinary mermaid girl is already so cute, so isn't the mermaid princess. It is rumored that she is as beautiful as the pirate empress, Luo Shen said. Ah, stop talking. Sanji, stop, don't fantasize. Your nosebleed is going to come out again. Chopper yelled. Seeing this, Neptune immediately became nervous. I will not agree to let you meet Shirahoshi, give up. Yo, Neptune, I brought your daughter. Suddenly, Luffy came in from the door, accompanied by Princess Shirahoshi. Ah. Sanji turned his head and looked petrified on the spot. Ah. Sanji turned into stone, Chopper yelled. Lots of people. Humans. Shirahoshi became nervous all of a sudden, subconsciously moved closer to Luffy, and whispered, Father. Shirahoshi. Neptune's eyes widened. Why did you escape? It's too dangerous, go back to the hard shell tower. With me here, what danger can there be? Luffy rolled his eyes and said speechlessly, Neptune, why don't you arrest that Vanderdaken? Neptune was speechless. Your Excellency Luffy, you know, it's not that I don't want to do this, but that guy is very cunning. When the young Shirahoshi sued him, he immediately wanted to arrest him and execute him. However, cannot be caught. That's right, I'll take Shirahoshi out for a walk. Maybe that person will run out, and I'll help you out by the way. Luffy waved his hand and said to everyone. Everyone is free, I will take Shirahoshi to the sea forest. Let's go, Shirahoshi. Etc., etc. Neptune stood up hastily, and said helplessly, Lord Luffy, with you here, Shirahoshi may, indeed, be fine, but please let Sharkstar accompany you. Of course, as a father, he felt sorry for keeping his daughter in the hard shell tower for 8 years. This is his incompetence. Seeing Shirahoshi's expectant expression now, I can only agree. What else can he do? Do you insist on sending people back into the cage? Yes, father, please rest assured and leave it to me. Shark stood up immediately and said to Shirahoshi, Shirahoshi, be careful, don't leave me and Lord Luffy 5 meters away. Yes, brother Sharkstar. Shirahoshi nodded like a pounding garlic. After so many years, can he finally go out? So happy. At this time, Robin also stood up and said with a smile, Luffy, let me go too, Heijisen seems to have a historical text. Then let's go. There's nothing wrong with Luffy. Soon, the 4 of them left the banquet hall. Watching them go out, Upton sighed. So sorry for all these years, Shirahoshi. Why Shirahoshi is going to Heijisen, his father certainly knows best. Just when Luffy and others left Dragon Palace City and went to Sea Forest. Qinghai. A piece of news quickly spread around the world. The Straw Hat Fleet crosses the Saboti Archipelago and enters the New World. The world government wants to capture Morgan's, but at the same time, it has to rely on Morgan's Newsbird Group. Today, relying on the power of Newsbird, the reward orders have been spread all over the world. Different from the past, this time, all the members of the Straw Hat Pirates are wanted by the world government. No, to be precise, except for a few people such as Laboon and Brook. Pirate Hunter, Rorano Azoro, Live or Die, Bounty, 27,700 to see you. Death Surgeon, Trafalgar Law, Life or Death, Bounty, 320 million Baileys. One of the original 7 warlords of the sea, Gecko Moria, Life or Death, Bounty, 440 million Baileys. Barto Romeo, Live or Die, Bounty, 100 million Baileys. Devil's Son, Nico Robin, Live or Die, Bounty, 500 million Baileys. Little Thieving Cat, Nami, Life or Death, Bounty, 100 million berries. The Princess of Alabasta, Neferutali Vivi, is only allowed to be captured alive, 100 million profit. A thick stack of brand new wanted warrants changed the world in a blink of an eye. The world is in an uproar. Countless people find it incredible. Added so many bounty criminals in one breath, which has never happened in history. And all of them are members of the Straw Hat Pirates. The minimum is 100 million. Crazy. From these arrest warrants, anyone can feel a kind of madness. Straw Hat Luffy. What the hell did this guy do? He is so wanted by the world government. Ah, even a pet civet cat on the boat is offering a reward of 100 million. Isn't this an opportunity to make a fortune? According to the news, the bounty hunters in New World are all crazy. Straw Hat Luffy is very powerful, countless people have seen it in the live broadcast of Summit War. But what about his men? This kind of large-scale bounty, even a pet bid of 100 million, is completely free money. Under the heavy reward, there must be a brave man. The world government is really angry. North Blue. Kingdom of Germa. This is a unique country in the world. It does not have a fixed country, and usually consists of dozens of ships that move separately, and when combined together, it is a kingdom. The royal family that rules this country is named Ace. At this moment, on the balcony of one of the castles, the Princess of Germa, Vinsmoke Reiju, is sitting here, drinking coffee quietly. Suddenly, a flock of newsbirds flew over the kingdom, and countless newspapers were thrown down. One of them landed on her desk. The special thick newspaper, and the reward order that appeared in the interlayer made the woman even more astonished. The Straw Hat Fleet. Is the world government really crazy? She picked up the reward orders and looked at them one by one. When she saw that the civet cat named Chopper also had a reward of 100 million, she was stunned. Regardless of whether he was a bounty criminal before, even if he was a person with reward, even if he was just a handyman, even if he was a pet. The minimum is 100 million, Reiju gasped. Even as long as you provide the corresponding target clues, you can get 10 million rewards. It's crazy. Behind the madness, there are new doubts. Why? Reiju flipped through the wanted notice silently, and suddenly, her fingers trembled slightly. The man on the reward order has unique curly eyebrows. Sanji, live or die, bounty, 100 million Baileys. Staring blankly at the reward order, Reiju shook the hand holding the coffee cup unconsciously. At the same time, King's Laboratory, a subordinate sent a wanted warrant. Vinsmoke Judge also saw Sanji's bounty. Your Majesty, this must be His Royal Highness Sanji, right? Although there is no surname written on it, although many years have passed, His Royal Highness Sanji has grown up, but there is no mistake. Listening to his subordinate's words, Vinsmoke Judge suddenly smiled. Sanji indeed. His eyes flashed, and he read an unusual taste from the newspaper. Who is the Straw Hat Luffy who can make the world government so crazy? This is an opportunity. Immediately cancel the rest of the trip and go to New World. He decisively issued the king's order. As a result, a mighty country on the sea changed its course and headed towards the New World. Why is the world government so crazy about rewarding Straw Hat crew? The reasons behind it were not stated in the newspaper. The content in the newspaper simply stated that after the Straw Hat fleet briefly appeared in the Sabodi archipelago, it sailed to the Fishmen Island and headed for the New World. But in fact, the reason for this situation is not because of Nika fruit. Maybe there is part of the reason, but not the core of the problem. What really made the world government do such a crazy thing is that 3 celestial dragons were killed. As the descendants of the Creator, celestial dragons, the nobles of the world above all living beings. Any attack on celestial dragons will attract the intervention and attack of the highest combat power of naval headquarters. Let alone killing. The celestial dragons were angry, and this anger also led to the crazy behavior of the world government. But at the same time, celestial dragons is also fearful and does not allow reports of celestial dragons being killed to appear in the newspaper. After news of what happened in the Sabodi archipelago reached Mariajoy, the celestial dragons did 2 things. First, influence the 5 elders to arrest everyone in the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. Second, order CP0 to deal with all the participants in the auction at that time, kill them all, and leave no one alive. Thus, the killing of celestial dragons, which was enough to shake the world, was suppressed just like that. This should be the case, but there are still fish that slip through the net. Fooferfer. That group of idiots don't know yet. That auction is my business. Dressrosa. In front of an open-air swimming pool in the palace. Doflamingo sat on the beach chair, crossed his legs, and looked at the newspaper with a mocking face. As the big boss behind the largest population auction in the Sabodi archipelago, long before the news spread, not long after the incident broke out. The auctioneer who escaped at the auction and was stunned by Rayleigh with conquerors reported the situation to him as soon as he woke up. Hey, Straw Hat Luffy is really a crazy man. He dared to kill celestial dragons, and killed all 3 of his family. A cadre with a runny nose said with a strange smile. Celestial dragons are gods. He really dares to kill gods. No wonder the government wants to cover up this kind of news. Once it is known to the world, it will cause huge riots. The group of high-ranking idiots are just afraid. What riot? It's nothing more than fear that there is a stain that can't be washed off on the gorgeous coat named God. Doflamingo dismisses it. He is very clear about how attractive celestial dragons are. What happened when he was a child made him much more sober than those idiots who lived in the Holy Land. Fooferfer. How can such an interesting thing not be reported? Once the Straw Hat kills 3 celestial dragons and they can still live moistly, once this matter becomes a fact, those who have nowhere to vent their resentment, what kind of action will there be? It's really interesting. Dover. This will bring great popularity to the Straw Hat. Torbull frowned slightly with a runny nose. It doesn't matter. This is the reward he deserves, provided he can survive. Dare Morgans to report. Even dare to publish the name, IMM, in the newspaper, no matter it is true or not. What else would he not dare to do? Doflamingo pulled out a phone bug and quickly dialed a number. A moment later, a familiar voice came from the phone bug. Hey, this is the headquarters of the World Economics. I'm Morgans. If I know this number and dare to call, there must be some big news. It's me. This voice. Don Quixote Doflamingo? The Knights of God have already targeted you, Fooferfer. I am very happy that you are still alive. They can't find me. HMPH. The world government really looks down on me for being able to develop the world economics into the world's largest news media. Do you think they can easily catch my tail? Morganth was elated. His headquarters is an airship, which can run anywhere anytime. The world government, at least for now, has to rely on his newsbird group. About today's newspaper. I have some good news for you. It depends on whether you dare to continue to stimulate the 5 elders. Please say that the reward will satisfy you. No pay required. Again? Morgans perked up. I like people like you. For the truth, for the big news. The incident of offering rewards to all members of the Straw Hats, which has been raging in Qinghai, has not yet been communicated to the Fishmen Island. Newsbirds can't reach this kind of deep sea, and the news about the Fishmen Island is always delayed. At this time, northeast of the Fishmen Island, sea forest. The forest at the bottom of the sea is not inside the giant bubble of the Fishmen Island. It is also known as the Cemetery of Ships, since many sunken ships will be transported here along the flow of the tide. When Luffy and others come here, the first thing they see is many damaged sunken ships lying quietly together. Lord Luffy, this is the sea forest. Sharkstar leads the way. After passing through the bubble membrane covering the sea forest, several people finally got out of the seawater. What a beautiful place, Robin exclaimed. The colorful forest is beautiful, and outside the bubble film, you can also see whales and fish cruising. Yangshu Eve casts the sunlight on the sea here, creating a vibrant scene. Shirahoshi bit his lip and walked forward without saying a word, floating away. Luffy sat on her shoulders, knowingly smiled and said, "Come outside for a walk, but you're in a bad mood?" "Sorry, Lord Luffy." Shirahoshi shook his head. Soon, several people came to a tombstone. "This is where my mother is buried," she whispered. Robin, who followed behind, frowned slightly. "Tombstone?" "Yes, Shirahoshi and I's mother died of serious injuries 8 years ago." Sharkstar explained in a deep voice. She was deeply loved by the people during her lifetime, and she was called Otahime Empress. Excessively injured? Robin froze for a moment. After a moment of silence, Shashing sighed, and slowly told the story of Princess Yiji. The story is not complicated. To put it simply, Otahime tries to coexist harmoniously with humans in order to allow murlocs and mermaids to live freely on the sea. She wants to change the thinking of human beings and change her group from fish to human. She wants equality, not hate. To this end, Otahime has put in a lot of effort. On the one hand, she wants to call on the citizens of the Fishman Island to let go of past hatred and no longer hate humans. On the other hand, she also needs to seek to establish friendly relations with the world government. At the beginning, many people were moved by my mother, and many signatures were collected, but in the end, they were assassinated by opponents. Of course Luffy knew about these things, and he also knew who the murderer was. Robin didn't know, and apologized after listening. Sorry for reminding you of something sad. It's okay, it's over. Shark Star looked at his sister and said, Shirahoshi wants to come to the sea forest just to pay homage to his mother. Sitting in front of Otahime's tombstone with his fishtail crossed, Shirahoshi's expression was dazed. When Otahime died, she was only 6 years old. 8 years later, her mother's voice and smile are still clearly visible. Shirahoshi. Suddenly, Luffy grinned and said, Your mother's long-cherished wish is to let the people of the Fishman Island live peacefully on the sea surface, instead of chasing a small ray of sun in this deep sea. Lord Luffy? Shirahoshi turned his head slightly, looking at the neighborhood on his shoulder. Luffy jumped off Shirahoshi's shoulder, turned to look at Sharkstar behind him, and asked, Where is the text of history? In the middle of the sea forest. Did $2 be read at the beginning? Hearing this, Shark shook his head. Sorry, I don't understand this. He is 22 years old now. When Roger saw the historical text of the road sign here, Neptune had just succeeded to the position of king, and he hadn't married Otahime yet, and Sharkstar hadn't been born naturally. Where did the red stone go? Luffy was lost in thought. After Roger became the One Piece, he met Whitebeard and told him the meaning of D. Could it be that Whitebeard took it? After all, the Fishman Island was under Whitebeard's protection before. When you enter New World, ask Whitebeard pirates. He has the life card of Ace on his body, and he can find the Whitebeard regiment when he finds Ace. Everyone mourned for a while in front of Otahime's tombstone, and then went to the center of the sea forest. There, Luo saw a square stone tablet. This stone is different from the ones I've seen before. It's more like a confession book? Is there a reference to a man named Joey Boy? Robin nodded, sat on a stone, stared at the steel and said, A man named Joey Boy left a letter of confession to the mermaid princess. It seems that there was an agreement, but Joey Boye took medicine. After a pause, Robin turned to look at Shirahoshi, then at Luffy, and couldn't help laughing. Luffy, after your fruit is awakened, is it Joey Boy? You are the sun god of this generation, and Shirahoshi is the mermaid princess of this generation, which is very romantic. The mermaid princess here obviously refers specifically to Poseidon, who has the ability to communicate with Poseidon. Shirahoshi didn't know why, so he opened his mouth in doubt. What does it mean? Luffy pondered. About the agreement, I don't know what it is. Isn't it written on it? Robin shook his head. The Riddler is so annoying. Luffy cursed from the bottom of his heart. Just explain clearly. Maybe I can finish it for you. If you don't explain clearly, how would I know? Thinking so, Luffy said to Shirahoshi, The sun god of the previous generation and the mermaid princess of the previous generation are dead. It doesn't matter what agreement they have. Shirahoshi. Yes. Let's make a new agreement. Why? Shirahoshi tilted his head in confusion. Master Luffy, do you want to make a promise with me? What dreams do you have? If it's a dream, I want my mother's wish to come true. One day in the future, mermaids and humans can live under the same sun as equals. This dream is difficult. There is no real equality in the world, and there is no equality among human beings. In contrast, becoming the #1 swordsman in the world, finding a LLBLUE, drawing a world map, etc., are dreams that can be fulfilled. How about this? Luffy suggested. I will lend you my name and bring you the Fishman Island to Qiwuhai, so that you can really enjoy the sunshine, instead of being limited to the roots of Yangshu Eve. Even if it is equal, this is really impossible. This is not something you can do if you have the strength. It requires changing the minds of countless people. And hearing his words, Shirahoshi just widened his beautiful eyes. Sharkstar showed an expression of disbelief. Lord Luffy, are you kidding me? Take the Fishman Island out to sea. This kind of thing is really possible. Compared with equality, that is 100 times easier. Luffy thought from the bottom of his heart, and smiled. As a promise, of course I'm not the only one who pays. Shirahoshi, when I complete the promise, you can get on my boat. Get on the boat? Shirahoshi looked puzzled. Lord Luffy, what does it mean to get on the boat? Going on a boat is to go to the outside world for adventure together. You must have been bored after staying in the hard-shell tower for 8 years? The outside world is very exciting. Luffy said like a strange sorghum who abducted the little lowly. Hee hee. Robin on the side couldn't help covering his mouth and laughing. Adventure. Shirahoshi's sapphire eyes burst out with hope. Wait. Shirahoshi. The elder brother hurriedly said. This is not a joke, Lord Luffy, stop joking. Are you going to make decisions for Shirahoshi? Luffy raised her eyebrows. She's your sister, not your pet. But, Shirahoshi is only 14. Sharkstar is speechless. This is something that people can't refute, at least he won't know what to say for a while. Shirahoshi nodded, showing a big smile. Then it's a promise. Lord Luffy, when the Fishman Island rises to the surface of the sea, Lord Luffy will take me to the outside world for adventure. %Z*SG Robin, engrave this agreement on it. Luffy laughed, pointed to the text of the history and said, the agreement of the dead is a fart. This is an agreement between me and Shirahoshi. If you engrave it, no one is going to go back on it. Robin gave him a funny look, bullying others. Shirahoshi is young, what a bad man. Could that be an adventure? That's dangerous. However, she got up as she said, the stone tablet that records the text of history is very hard, and ordinary things can't leave any traces. Don't worry, use this. Luffy walked over, took out a dagger from Robin's bag, and then fixed his eyes. The power of shock fruit is attached to the blade. Under the blessing of fruit power, a circle of white light appeared on the surface of the dagger blade. This is acceptable. Taking the dagger from Luffy, Robin wanted to touch it in surprise, but was stopped immediately. Don't touch. This is a high-frequency vibration. Although you can't see it clearly, it is actually very sharp. Luffy was taken aback. If he touched it, his fingers might break off. He took the dagger back again. Forget it, let me do it, you just teach me how to write. Saying so, he walked to the back of the history text. Armed color hardened. In an instant, the dagger became extremely black. Seeing this, Luo Yi began to guide from the side. Ancient text is also a type of text. It doesn't matter if you don't understand it, it is very simple for Luffy to engrave a paragraph of text like a cat or a tiger. As a result, the Shirahoshi and Shawshing brothers and sisters could only stare blankly at Luffy leaving a new paragraph of text on the extremely hard historical stone tablet after 800 years. Luffy even gave this text a title, the New Testament. After finishing all this, he looked back at Shirahoshi and said with a smile. This is an agreement with historical records, and no one can go back on it, even Shirahoshi, your father. Yes, Shirahoshi replied with a smile. The act of engraving the agreement on the text of history has no meaning in itself, but a sense of ritual. It's like when a man and a woman get married, the woman wants the man to give him a diamond ring. The act of engraving ancient characters will give the agreement some sacredness and strengthen the binding force of the agreement. Of course, it is also a little romantic. As one of the 3 ancient weapons, Poseidon. Of course Luffy wants Shirahoshi. But Shirahoshi is not a cold weapon, so we can only add some influence from the inner side. The problem now is that there is an agreement. How to complete the agreement? If only there were lion fruit. Isn't it easy to get an island into the sea? It's a pity that Golden Lion has been in hiding for more than 20 years, and no one knows where he is now. Leaving aside the option of lion fruit, currently the easiest to achieve is Noah, the boat of promise. This is a super huge ship comparable to half the size of the Fishman Island. 800 years ago, Joy Boy and the Mermaid Princess made a promise to use this ship to move the residents of the Fishman Island to the ground. At present, this ship is sleeping in Murloc Street, and it is not troublesome to find it. The trouble is, how to steer this giant ship. That requires the power of the Sea Kings, not ordinary Sea Kings, but super huge Sea Kings with a body size of several thousand meters. Communication is not a problem. Luffy has the ability of reading words. communicates with those supergiant sea kings as the sun god, and it is feasible to get their help. The problem is, how to summon it. Still have to rely on Shirahoshi's own strength. Thinking of this, Luffy said to the three, "Let's go, it's all right here, go to another place for a walk of." "Wait a minute, Luffy, I'm transcribing the text." Robin took out his notebook and finished transcribing Joey Boye's letter of apology, then nodded and said, "Let's go. Where should we go next?" Luffy looked at Shirahoshi. Shirahoshi thought for a while, and suggested in a low voice, Gorenkad Square. That was the place where Princess Otahime gave a speech, and it was also the place where she was assassinated. Next, a group of 4 people left Heijisen and went to Jalongkad Square. Princess Shirahoshi appeared suddenly and caused a great commotion in the square. After a brief stroll around, everyone went to Mermaid Bay, Waterwheel Town, Marlene Shopping Center and other places. When the sun above their heads gradually dimmed, the 4 returned to Dragon Palace City. King Neptune was relieved to see Shirahoshi return safely. "Send your daughter back safe and sound, Neptune. Why are you so nervous?" Luffy rolled his eyes. He really didn't trust him. Could he still abduct people? Although there is such a criminal record. "Lord Luffy, thank you very much." Neptune sighed. "I also want Shirahoshi to live freely, but that hateful Vanderdecken. Speaking of which, it's a pity that I didn't encounter any danger along the way." Luffy shook his head. It would be easy if the other party showed up. Just thinking about it, Bartolomeo quickly walked over and said, "Lord Luffy, Frankie sent a message before. After we left, a group of Murlocs who claimed to be the new Murloc pirates attacked him. Now those Murlocs have been defeated by Luffy and the others. What should we do?" "New Murloc pirates? What's the captain's name? If you take a pill, your hair will turn white, and you will look a bit like Arlong." I frowned and thought for a while, but still didn't remember. Speaking of which, the captain of the new Murloc pirates knows Vanderdecken, right? Thinking of this, Luffy immediately ordered, "Zauba, you and Moria take a few people to wipe out this pirate group and bring the captain back alive." "Yes." Bartolomeo immediately ran to order his troops. As soon as the people left, he followed Neptune to the living room. "The mermaid brings tea." Neptune said, "Lord Luffy, are you ready? Get that Vanderdecken who harassed Shirahoshi out, don't worry, little problem. It is not necessary for him to personally do what he ordered." Luffy picked up the black tea and took a sip. At this time, Mr. 5 hurried to the living room. "Lord Luffy. I'm very sorry." He knelt down on one knee and said nervously, "I tried various methods, but that man just didn't open his mouth." Hearing this, Luffy couldn't help being a little surprised. Boogers don't even open their mouths to attack. He would like to call Katakuri a man. "Lord Luffy, I'm sorry." Neptune got up decisively and left. He was obviously not fit to continue to listen to the following words. Luffy nodded, and after the people left, he said, "It's not so easy for a person who is not afraid of death to ask him to speak up. I don't blame you." "Yes. I got this on him." Mr. 5 breathed a sigh of relief, and took out a phone bug from the outer pocket of the windbreaker. This should be his union with Big Mom. Before he could finish speaking, the phone rang. "Pulu Pulu, Pulu Pulu," Luffy said. "Pick it up, it must be his mother who contacted him." "Want to answer the call from 4 emperors?" Mr. 5 became even more nervous. In the past, he was just a small agent of the Baroque Work Agency. He never thought that one day he would have to talk to the 4 emperors directly. Don't lose the prestige of the Straw Hat Pirates. After self-hypnosis for a moment, Mr. 5 solemnly picked up the receiver. "Brother Katakuri, are you done with the Fishmen Island?" A female voice came from the opposite side. Mr. 5 couldn't help looking up at Luffy. Luffy didn't interfere, signaling him to let himself go. "So," Mr. 5 sneered, "your brother Katakuri is now our prisoner." Silence. After a while, the opposite party spoke again, with an angry tone. "Who are you? How's Katakuri-san?" "I'm the Straw Hat Pirates, a member of Division 2, Mr. 5. Gradually began to enter the state. Mr. 5 snorted coldly. "If you want your brother to live, let Big Mom come and talk to me." "It's a little cool." Mr. 5 is so cool. How could he be so arrogant to a 4 emperors? "It's all in the light of Lord Luffy. He is now representing Lord Luffy, therefore, the name of the Straw Hats must not be weakened. I'll give you 5 minutes. If you don't hear Big Mom's voice, I don't guarantee that your brother's hands and feet will grow on his body intact. You bastard. If something happens to Brother Katakuri, don't think we'll let it go. The person on the other side seemed very angry, and said harshly, then hung up the communication. Probably went to find my mother. Mr. Five took a long breath and looked at Luffy again. Well done. Luffy praised temporarily, and then said helplessly, don't keep using the tone of gangsters, you will be misled by the minibus. The captain of Team 2 is Vivi, but Vivi doesn't care about things at all. Although Bartolomeo is the vice captain, he almost does the work of the captain. Are his players okay? They all look like gang members. I'm very sorry. Mr. Five bowed his head immediately. Soon, the phone bug rang again. Mr. Five connected immediately, and Charlotte Linlin's heavy voice came from the opposite side. Straw Hat Luffy. My son is all right. Give me the phone bug, and you go and bring the man. Luffy gave some instructions, and after getting the phone bug, he said into the microphone, Good evening, Big Mom, your son is doing well. There is no missing arm or leg. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? Luffy slapped him backwards and snorted. The Fishman Island is my territory. Your son came to my territory to make trouble. I didn't kill him on the spot. I already gave you face. On the other side, Cake Island. Cake Castle. Charlotte Linlin was stunned for a moment. What's wrong? Isn't the Fishman Island Whitebeard's territory? Whitebeard is dead, isn't that the land of no man? However, for pirates, reason is obviously useless. It doesn't matter at all. Mama. Charlotte Linlin narrowed her eyes and sneered, tell me, what's the condition? As expected of an old pirate, I will understand immediately. Luffy praised the other party in his heart. You have a red stone in your hand, and I want a rubbing. So that's how it is. The news said that you just entered New World, HMPH, and you immediately focused on the text of the road sign history. Charlotte Linlin is not surprised that Straw Hat Luffy knows 4 redstones. It's just the inner anger building up. Dare to take action against my people, you are very courageous. Straw Hat, I will give you a chance to send them safely to Cake Island. I will allow you to single out 10 favorites among my daughters. This time it was Luffy's turn to be speechless. He just fell in love with the redstone in Charlotte Linlin's hand, and the other party was even more exaggerated, and directly fell in love with him, and wanted to tie him in his straw hats. So, I couldn't help laughing. Who do you look down on? For your daughter's looks. Luffy couldn't help recalling. Among Charlotte Linlin's more than 30 daughters, there are some strange people. The main reason is that this woman is not taboo about meat and vegetables, and her dream is that all races in the world, regardless of high or low, live in one country. She named the country she ruled All Nations. For this dream, she married men of all races and gave birth to children of all races. As a result, her daughters have become a group of strange existences, and those who are more in line with ordinary people's aesthetics are completely rare. Really? Deny. Charlotte Linlin laughed. Her voice was harsh. Who do you think I am? How dare you take action on my child, and now refuse to marry me? Straw Hat Luffy, it seems that you are mentally prepared. Come on. Come to New World. Old lady but 4 emperors Big Mom. 4 emperors. 4 emperors are nothing. Luffy is not used to her at all. Let's enjoy your son's screams first. As he spoke, he took out a heart from his coat and squeezed it violently. Katakuri was brought into the living room by Mr. Five, and as soon as he entered the door, he immediately felt a strong pain, which he couldn't bear even with his willpower. Ah! Screamed out. Katakuri. Charlotte Linlin's complexion changed. You brat, how dare you? Have you calmed down yet? Luffy said calmly. If you haven't calmed down yet, I can let you listen to it again. Mom. Katakuri turned pale. This guy is on the Fishman Island. He gritted his teeth and shouted out key information. Although she didn't shout, Charlotte Linlin definitely knew. Yes, I'm on the Fishman Island, have the guts to come over. Luffy crossed his legs and said in a playful tone, do you dare to come? For this kind of provocation, Big Mom is of course very angry. The veins on his forehead popped out. After a while, he said. Since it's a transaction, We must ensure the safety of the hostages first, and we will give you what you want. The place of the transaction is Cake Island. Kid, do you dare to come? You wait. After a pause, Luffy said lightly again. The Fishmen Island is my territory, I declare again. Next time you come here to make trouble, don't blame me for not giving you face. As he spoke, he squeezed his heart heavily. Katakuri vomited blood while screaming. Don't blame me for not telling you beforehand. After speaking, click. The phone bug hangs up. Luffy tossed the heart in his hand, changed a leg on it, looked at Katakuri who was kneeling, and said casually. Your mother attaches great importance to you, and she is really willing to exchange the redstone rubbings for your safety. Unfortunately, her attitude is too high, and I originally planned to give a redstone information as a gift. Katakuri stared at Luffy with sharp eyes. Boom. Mr. 5 raised his hand and punched him. Pay attention to your tone. What is your attitude towards Lord Luffy, a mere prisoner? Luffy raised his hand to stop it, laughed and said, although I promised your mother to keep you safe, but on the way to Cake Island, you won't have a chance to eat plain rice. This guy is the Emperor's deputy, and he is already a top existence under the Emperor's combat power. As a sparring tool, it might be very useful. In the original story, Luffy still learned to foresee the future from him. Although not as good as Kaido Guy, an excellent educator, he is still a famous teacher. The captain of my first team has the potential of conquerors, Katakuri, please be his sparring partner during this time. It's hard, the fist is hard. Katakuri clenched his fists. Cake Island. Charlotte Linlin's face was gloomy. Looking at the phone bug with her eyes closed, the inner anger unconsciously sparked her conquerors. Black and red lightning spread like a spiderweb, shaking the entire room. Mother. The tables and chairs that possessed souls screamed in fright. On the side, a woman like an old witch named Charlotte Bree. She said with great concern, Mom, is Katakuri-san alright? The conquerors slowly retracted. Charlotte Linlin snorted. At least there will be no danger to life. Katakuri won't die until he gets the rubbing book. It's hard to say after you get it. Although the two parties agreed on the content of the transaction. Brui. Go print a copy of the history of the road sign, and then notify all family members. Charlotte Linlin stood up, her huge body gave a strong pressure. Get ready for war. The Fishmen Island, Dragon Palace City. Bartolomeo got the captain's order, went to Moria immediately, and took Jinbei with him. Led by Jinbei, the group went to Murloc Street to settle accounts with the new Murloc pirates. For their actions, Luffy is quite at ease, at this time. After reaching the deal with 4 Emperor's Big Mom, Luffy got up and left the living room, and came to the hard shell tower again. Shirahoshi, how can you sleep at such a young age? Opening the door openly and entering, Luffy saw Shirahoshi lying on the bed sleeping at a glance. Lord Luffy? Shirahoshi rubbed his eyes, I'm sorry. I was a little tired after walking outside all day today, and fell asleep before I knew it. Luffy jumped onto the table and said, did you forget our promise? Promise? Go ahead, cry. Luffy ordered decisively. Huh? Shirahoshi looked dumbfounded. Why are you crying? Summon the Sea Kings. I want the Fishmen Island to rise to the surface of the sea. I can't do it alone, you have to work hard. In short, cry quickly. Hearing this, Shirahoshi suddenly remembered that when he was a child, when he was 6 years old, his crying attracted several huge Sea Kings. Although she didn't know what Master Luffy was going to do, she still nodded in trust. Brewing. Shirahoshi cupped his face and said shyly, I'm so happy today, I can't cry. Luffy. Master Luffy? Shirahoshi looked at his speechless expression and pouted, I'm sorry. It's useless to be cute, you have to cry if you should cry. Luffy pondered for a moment, and proposed, think about something sad? But I'm very happy now, I can't think of it. I have to think. Think about your mother being assassinated and dying at a young age. Don't you want to catch the beast? Don't kill me. Shirahoshi was taken aback, his face aggrieved. When did I get angry with you? It's just that tone is a little bit heavier. In the original story, don't you love to cry? Luffy said helplessly, in short, you are in a very happy mood now, so you can't cry at all. That's easy to handle, I'll find someone to make you negative. Thinking of this, he immediately released his sense of knowledge. Knowledge enveloped Dragon Palace City and found Perona. This Princess Mononoke is staying in the guest room, leaning against the bed, motionless. Out of body. Continue to expand the scope of knowledge and color, and finally include the whole the Fishmen Island. Finally in the Murloc Cafe, I found the breath of Nami and others. Immediately, he sent a thought wave. The Fishmen Island, Mermaid Cafe. The store manager is a female mermaid named Hyori. She is 27 years old and belongs to the big blue shark mermaid family. At the same time, she is also a fortune teller, with a reputation of 100% accurate predictions, known as Mrs. Zhongli. Is that so? Did Arlong do all that evil in East Blue? At this time, after hearing about Arlong from Nami, Hyori's eyes darkened. I'm sorry. Actually Arlong and I are half-brothers and sisters, and I caused you trouble. Huh. Nami was taken aback. Madam Hyori, aren't you a mermaid? Arlong is a murloc, right? Hyori held the pipe, took a light puff, and explained. It's very common in our Fishmen Island. After a murloc and a mermaid get married, there are 4 possibilities for the child to be born. A male murloc, a female murloc, a male mermaid, and a female mermaid. Isn't it amazing? Hearing that, Nami is more interested in another thing. Then how did you get pregnant? Hyori's face froze. I don't know. How could she know something she hadn't experienced before? Seriously, don't just ask such unanswerable questions. But it's amazing, baby, there are 4 possibilities. Wei was very surprised. Perona is floating in the air, holding a small and cute parasol. I heard Lord Moria say that mermaids and humans are not reproductively isolated, and they seem to be able to give birth to offspring smoothly. Madam Hyori, is this true? It is true. Unbelievable X3. Nami, Vivi, and Nuoqigao sighed in unison. Let's stop this topic. Hyori couldn't stand these women. I'm really sorry about the Arlong matter. He is that kind of person. He is full of malice towards human beings. When the Fisher Tiger incident led to a lot of murlocs became like that. It wasn't just because of Fisher Tiger, the hatred between murlocs and humanoids, but it lasted for a long, long time. It is more accurate to say that it is the fuse. It's okay, it's over. He did kill my mother, but he's dead now, there's no need to continue the hatred. Nami smiled slightly, very open-minded. As for why Hyori wanted to apologize to her, she also understood in her heart. Who told our men to be amazing? That's right, Shaw is right. Call me Hyori. Hyori, when I was shopping, I heard that you were a very powerful fortune teller. Can you do a fortune teller for me? What do you want to divination? Nami really wanted to ask if Luffy had a woman outside. When she came back from the Summit War last time, she smelled very fragrant. It must be a woman. Luffy doesn't know how to use any perfume. But when the words came to his lips, he swallowed them back. It's really unnecessary, just like Vivi's situation. If Luffy wants to tell her, she will definitely tell her. When will Luffy become One Piece? She asked with a smile. Hyori was silent for a moment, and said, actually, my prediction is not 100% accurate. After a pause, he added in a puzzled tone. In the past, my prediction must have been accurate. I also predicted the outbreak of the Summit War, but the result was different from what I predicted. Ace survived, and the biggest reason, it's your captain, Monkey D. Luffy. What's the meaning? Nami and Vivi looked at each other and asked in unison. His existence interfered with my prophecy and successfully rescued Padoka's D. Ace. Later, I tried to divination him alone, but failed every time. He is my nemesis. Hyori cares a lot about this. That's really sorry. Suddenly, a voice came to mind. Hyori started, staring around wide-eyed. Don't look for it. I'm in Yingcheng. After another voice, Perona heard it too. Come back. I have something to find you. What can you do with me? Perona's face was full of resistance. She couldn't help but think of 18 punishments. As of today, I have only passed 2 levels, and no one knows what else is waiting. Need your strength. Hurry up. I know. It's not cute, it's disgusting. Perona murmured dissatisfied. After explaining to Nami and the others, they went out through the wall and left the Mermaid Cafe. Hyori watched the scene dumbfounded. She was talking to herself just now. That's Luffy calling her. It's a voice that rings in my heart. Have you heard it too? Nuoqigao said helplessly. One time when I was sleeping in the morning, I was also startled. People are in Dragon Palace City, but their voices can be directly conveyed here, and even resound in the hearts of others. Hyori said blankly. Is he a god? Dragon Palace City, Hard Shell Tower. Before Luffy could wait for Perona to come back, Neptune rushed in. Lord Luffy, you are indeed here. Neptune, are you? Luffy said hello. Father. Shirahoshi also called out. Having no time to pay attention to his daughter, Neptune said nervously, Your Excellency Luffy, I heard from Sharkstar that you made an agreement with Shirahoshi? That's right, it's all engraved on the history text. Luffy grinned. How can this be? I don't agree. Shirahoshi is only 14 years old, how can she get on your boat? How can a princess of a country go to be a pirate? Neptune was very angry. So you said this, I thought you didn't want to take the risk of moving the Fishmen Island to land. Luffy shook his head and said. About the Fishmen Island. That is Otahime's dream world, sharing the same sun with human beings. Neptune's expression faltered, and he sighed. Actually, our ancestors tried it hundreds of years ago, but it was just a dream left to regret. Hearing this, Luffy crossed his arms and said slowly. My agreement with Shirahoshi is that I will help her realize this dream, and she will get on my boat. Since it is Nankimon, then you don't have to worry about it. Neptune was speechless for a moment. Ha 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 ha, don't be impatient, you might as well trust your daughter's strength, she is the Poseidon of this generation. Luffy laughed. Hearing this, Neptune looked serious. So, this is your purpose. There is no good or evil in power itself. Luffy neither admitted nor denied. You might as well think about it, if you the Fishmen Island really ran to land, how would you protect yourself? My name can protect you for a while, but in the end you still have to rely on yourself, and Shirahoshi is the shield of your family. Seriously thinking about these words, Neptune was silent for a long time. Shirahoshi sat obediently on the shellbed, opened his eyes wide without saying a word, watching the exchange of words between Master Luffy and Father. It seems that Father lost? If the promise is fulfilled, can I go on an adventure myself? Shirahoshi is looking forward to the future. I understand, but can it really be successful? After a long time, Neptune frowned and asked, will the Fishmen Island be in danger? Who knows? See if Shirahoshi can master his own power, trust your daughter. Ultimately, Upton was gone. If he can really fulfill the Nanki dream of his ancestors, he can only say that this is destiny. However, I should go to Shirley for divination tomorrow. Your father agreed, and you can't go back on your word. Watching Neptune leave, Luffy laughed jokingly. Shirahoshi puffed up his cheeks. I have never regretted it, Master Luffy. Just as he was speaking, Perona's spirit body emerged from the floor. Shirahoshi was taken aback. Luffy pointed to Shirahoshi and ordered, use negative ghost on her. Perona blinked, and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. I thought I was going to play some pervert punishment game with her, it really scared me to death. Immediately, following Luffy's order, she created a cute negative ghost in her palm. The ignorant Shirahoshi stretched out his finger to touch it, and then thump. Supporting the edge of the bed with both hands, his curious eyes became extremely depressed, and his tone was even more sad like rain. I'm sorry. I'm just a coward who loves to cry. Woo 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 ah. Sure enough, I cried. Weeping from low to low turned into wailing. Luffy's heart skipped a beat. In observation Haki's perception, there is a huge breath coming towards the Fishmen Island quickly. Because the distance is too far, even he can only sense it vaguely. Successful. He stood up quickly, looked up at the sky above the hard shell tower with a solemn expression. His sight seemed to penetrate the Dragon Palace City, and he saw a few extremely huge sea kings coming from the dark deep sea. Although he hasn't actually seen it yet, Luffy is sure that it must have been summoned by Shirahoshi. It's amazing, as expected of Poseidon. Obviously the cry is not loud, but it can be transmitted to such a far place, even beyond the coverage of his knowledge. Shirahoshi, you made it. Shirahoshi stagnated sobbing, rubbing the tears in his eyes, the negative ghost's memory fading quickly. She gradually came to her senses, Her face turned red with embarrassment, she puffed up her cheeks and turned her head away. I don't care about you, Master Luffy, you actually use this method. Ha ha ha, I'm going to see the Sea Kings you summoned, Perona, you can chat with her. Luffy laughed, took out the bubble coral and pressed it, and a bubble squeezed out from the top, wrapping his whole body inside. The next moment, he turned into the sun god. With a flash of stature, he quickly left Dragon Palace City. The mermaid's swimming speed in the water is the fastest in the world. However, in Nika's form, he is faster than the fastest mermaid. At the same time, 3 huge Sea Kings are coming towards the Fishman Island. Because it is night, Yangshu Eve has no light. At this time, the 10,000-meter deep sea is the real darkness. Only a few luminous beads on the Fishman Island emit a little bit of light. Did you hear that? I heard you. It's the king's call. There was another voice. It's the drum of liberation. After 800 years, it finally sounded again. The 2 kings have met. Has the appointed day come? They are talking with each other using special thoughts. Every king has a huge body that exceeds 5 kilometers. In contrast, Laboon is a cutie. What is the concept of more than 5,000 meters? Mount Everest is only more than 8,000 meters, less than a few kilometers. Suddenly, the 3 supergiant Sea Kings stopped moving, and in the darkness ahead, from the direction of the Fishman Island, a silver-white light galloped towards them. In a blink of an eye, they came in front of them. Luffy locked on them with his knowledge and exclaimed, "It's really big enough. It's the first time we meet. I'm Monkey D. Luffy." Fearing that they would not understand, they used the form of thought waves to directly transmit them to the hearts of the 3 supergiants. San Chaoju's eyes are very spiritual, revealing a kind of surprise. The Sun King, Dao is born. Have you met our king? You are calling us. They send a wave. The sound seems to be ringing in Luffy's mind. Sun King, why not call him the Sun God? Luffy was puzzled, but it didn't matter. I let this generation of Poseidon summon you. I want to bring the Fishman Island to the sea. For this, I need Noah and your strength. There is still some time before the agreed date. You were born earlier than expected. The whales will be happy too, my dear Sun King.